The Harlequin standing before him was uncharacteristically deferential, almost painfully humble. It didn't fit the legend of the clown troupe. These Harlequins, the flower sprouts, are the laughing god Chao Gaoqi's last loyal servants, the only Eldar who need no soul stones and are spared the constant fear of Slanesh because, after passing the Harlequin trials, their souls are personally watched over by the laughing god. They are fearsome fighters, capable of slaying custodes. During the Beast War, some of them even slipped into the Imperial Palace on Holy Terra. Whatever they intended for the Emperor, it drew a brutal response from the custodes and heavy casualties. "What do you want? How did you know I'd be here?" Mr. Axis asked. They had tracked his movements and waited. The instant his ship appeared, they had blinked in by psychic teleportation. "Respected Mr. Axis, strongest among the Imperium of Man, I bring the greetings of the Eldar gods," the Harlequin said. "Hold on. I'm not the strongest of humanity. At best, I'm second," Mr. Axis waved a hand. No, Mr. Axis. The great laughing god has declared you the strongest among humans. That golden glowing emperor is your god, not a man. He cannot be counted among mortals," the Harlequin replied. Eldar perception is a strange thing. To them, the gene seed primarchs are gods trapped in flesh. The emperor is an even greater divinity. Mr. Axis's soul power was enormous, but still, in their eyes, he was not a god, still a mortal. "Enough flattery. Say what you mean," Mr. Axis cut in. "You are straightforward, Mr. Axis. May we speak face to face?" He nodded and ordered the Morning Star to bring the Harlequin to the training ground. Moments later, the flower sprout, in motley and paint, bowed and performed a little comic dance before making an Eldar sign. "Mr. Axis, the great laughing god, bids me to offer you his goodwill. If you accept, he will grant you partial access to the webway. You will be able to use the Eldar webway freely, and we will guide you," the clown said. Mr. Axis blinked. The Eldar webway, the secret arteries of the galaxy, faster than hyperspace and mapped only by the flower sprouts and the laughing god himself, was an enormous gift. "Is this access for me alone, or for all humanity?" he asked. Only you, Mr. Axis. You may use it at will. Need to be on Nuceria in a day? The webway will take you. It's extraordinarily convenient." The Harlequin chuckled. "Hyperspace is archaic to the race that built the webway. The webway is faster." "It's a generous gift," Mr. Axis said slowly. "But I've learned this. No good deed goes unpunished. What does your laughing god want in return?" "Mr. Axis, the great laughing god watched your battle with the Lord of Mankind, the webway ruins. He saw it with his own sight, an earth-shaking clash. He admired your power. That is respect for strength," the Harlequin said. The laughing god had seen his fight with the Emperor. That explained their interest. "So he wants to fight me himself?" Mr. Axis raised an eyebrow. "I'd be curious." "The laughing god is not a god of battle. If you appreciate theater or comedy, he may perform for you," the Harlequin said. "I'm not interested in his comedy," Mr. Axis replied. "You will see," the Harlequin said, eyes alight. "It will be the greatest comedy in the galaxy. A final, deadly joke played for all life. The entire galaxy will be the audience, you included." A deadly joke? Was he suggesting Slanesh would be tricked into destroying itself to save the Eldar? Mr. Axis didn't buy that. He'd seen too much to be swayed by cosmic punchlines. He moved back to business. "Why offer me the webway? I won't accept a gift without purpose." "Mr. Axis, the laughing god asks a small favor. A millennium ago, the Eldar birthed a powerful chaos god. It devoured nearly all our gods, saved the laughing god, the god of war, and the life goddess, and destroyed most of our people. That was only the beginning. This entity bound the Eldar to it. Their souls are being fed to it. The souls of every Eldar will ultimately be consumed. You, and the powers you brought from other worlds, may be able to save our race." Mr. Axis's eyes narrowed. Another world, so the laughing god had divined his origin. It was no wonder, the Emperor perhaps knew, and the laughing god's sight in the webway was vast. "So you've investigated me and extend webway access to get my help," he guessed. "You misunderstand. The webway is but a meeting gift. If you agree, the laughing god has other rewards that will not disappoint," the Harlequin said. A tremendous effort was being made. Webway access alone was already invaluable. Travel across the galaxy at that speed would eclipse the Necrons' engines and rumors of Morningstar upgrades. Mr. Axis's curiosity sharpened. "How do I use the webway when I need it?" he asked. If you agree, I will follow you. Tell me when you need me, and I will take you to the nearest webway gate, then to anywhere in the galaxy. There is no place we Eldar do not know. This is only for you, the Harlequin replied. We humans don't like Xenos trailing us, Mr. Axis said. You can't just stick around. We Harlequins have concealments. The Harlequin smiled and drew a clown-patterned playing card. With a flick, it was placed over his face. In an instant, the 2-meter-2 Eldar was gone, replaced by an ordinary-looking human about 1.8 meters tall. How's this? I can serve as an advisor. As long as you don't expose me, no one will know. That's a trick worthy of the universe's greatest trickster, Mr. Axis conceded. Very well, I accept your laughing god's gift. A Harlequin who could walk unseen among humanity would be useful. Placed as a mortal commander, he could act as both guide and spy. Then let us go to business. Follow me, Mr. Axis. The laughing god wishes to speak with you in person, the Harlequin said, bowing. To win such a crucial ally, the laughing god wanted to show sincerity. Mr. Axis agreed, but not immediately. I will meet your god, but not yet. My companions will arrive in this star system soon. After we finish here, I will speak with your laughing god. Our estimates show your companions will reach this sector in about 3 days and take at least 5 days to enter this system officially. It takes only half a day to reach the Black Library, and the conversation should not be long, the Harlequin replied. Everything was timed and arranged by the laughing god. If you put it that way, lead on, Mr. Axis shrugged. He had little fear of the fabled Black Library. He was willing to enter the dragon's den, and there were likely many useful things within. They boarded a small transport and left the Morning Star, sliding into a great shaft of light. The passage felt less like a corridor and more like a glittering, hyperspatial dimension, the same otherworldly place the Emperor had once taken him. Here the Harlequin needed no suit. Air and gravity existed. The webway was a realm in its own right. A Harlequin ship guided them, threading through hidden routes. Follow our lead, Mr. Axis. The webway is labyrinthine. Stray and you may be lost for thousands or even tens of thousands of years, their escort warned. Mr. Axis nodded. No wonder the Emperor coveted it. The webway was superior in speed, safety, and efficiency, but it required mastery and maps the Eldar alone possessed. Once it had been lined with living cities, now Komarov remained. After hours of travel through shimmering gates, they emerged before a titanic black structure, a fortress as enormous as a planet, the Black Library. We have arrived, Mr. Axis. The great laughing god has awaited you, the Harlequins intoned. Led by a dozen flower sprouts, Mr. Axis entered the fortress. A towering Harlequin, nearly 4 meters tall and clad in red and black, bowed. Welcome to the Black Library, visitor from another world, Mr. Axis. Your presence brightens this humble place. Thank you for your gift, Mr. Axis replied. The Harlequin before him did not seem wholly physical. He was composed of warp light and living pattern, an image of a being formed of the webway itself. The gods of the warp do not have true physical bodies in the material universe. They can act in one of 2 ways. The first is to forge an avatar, a death god avatar, a war god avatar, though the greater the being, the harder that is. At the level of the chaos gods, many of their greater demons can be seen as avatars, yet those greater demons have developed self-awareness and act as independent entities. The second method is possession. A god chooses a mouthpiece, a faithful believer, and overlays its consciousness on that worshipper. But the laughing god before Axis was using neither method. He was neither an avatar nor a possessed mortal. This was another form entirely, the laughing god's own body, condensed here by the webway's peculiar physics. The Black Library sits in that interlayer between the warp and real space. There the laughing god could weave a substantial form out of raw warp energy. He smiled, waved a hand, and a vast dining table unfolded before Axis. Harlequins poured in, placing plates of exquisitely prepared food in ordered procession. Come, don't be shy, my esteemed guest, the laughing god purred. I know you have a hearty appetite. I've prepared some delicacies just for you. The creature's grin split his face in a way that put Axis on edge. Axis smiled politely, sat, and dug in. After running most of the day, he was hungry. These aren't just pretty, they taste surprisingly good, he commented between mouthfuls. Ha ha! Some of my followers were once nobility in the old Eldar Empire, the laughing god said. I gathered ingredients from across the galaxy to do you honor. He gestured at the food as if offering a treasure. Axis kept eating, mostly ignoring the laughing god. The room settled into a strange quiet. "Mr. Axis," said the laughing god, "enjoy your meal while my troupe performs a grand Eldar opera for you." Axis inclined his head and made a small, inviting motion. The laughing god clapped once, and the Harlequins rearranged themselves. The play was titled The Fall of the Eldar Gods. A sweeping pageant unfolded: the birth of the Eldar gods, the war in heaven, the old ones, the Tan, the rise of the Necrons, then the Eldar's long dominion, an empire that ruled for 60 million years, gods and mortals intertwined. Gods walked among citizens, and the society's splendor seemed eternal. Kalamen Shakaine met the Eldar who would slay him. A life goddess and her consort were attacked. The fire god begged the war god for mercy and promised 500 divine blades, but one blade would prove merely mortal. Phoenix King Asurian declared that the gods must no longer meddle in mortals' lives, and the age of god-mortal coexistence ended. Scene after scene of Eldar glory, decadence and decline played out like an operatic history. The highborn indulged in pleasures and excess until rot set in, until a monstrosity was born from their corruption. Then a single Harlequin stepped forward who did not resemble the others. Her costume was more ornate, her movements different. She wore a purple mask with a human face, and there was something deeply unsettling about it, a neutral beauty that shaded both masculine and feminine features, with a long, protruding tongue that made the expression oddly demonic. Axis judged by the figure under the costume that the performer was female. There is a strict law among Harlequins. Only another Harlequin may portray Slaanesh. No outsider may take that part. The reasons are grim. When a Harlequin plays Slaanesh, some incomprehensible force links to them. The performance is not merely theater. After the final curtain, the performer's soul is claimed by Slaanesh. Each Harlequin gets only one such performance in their lifetime. The other Harlequins took roles as the Eldar gods. The purple-masked Harlequin danced, and the show became a ritual, playing Slaanesh, reenacting the slaughter of the Eldar gods. As she leapt into the center of the stage, the library's etheric currents hiccuped. Axis froze mid-chew and watched as her toe touched the floor. The ground cracked in crystalline fissures that leaked viscous purple light. An aura he recognized from the warp, the same malignant shimmer that arises where Slaanesh meets Khorne, bloomed around her. His frown deepened. He had seen that signature before. The dancer was siphoning Slaanesh's power into the performance. On stage, the Harlequin portraying Asurian screamed. Where before golden dust had simulated a god's blood, now fresh, bright red flowed. The purple dancer's movements became frenetic, limbs twisting into inhuman arches, the tongue on her mask seeming to writhe, each sweep of her body exhaling a whisper of unbearable pleasure. One god after another fell. Axis felt as if he had been translated into that lost history, as if true Slaanesh had returned to annihilate the Eldar gods in that moment. The laughing god clapped, delighted, giving Axis a thumbs up. The performance, whatever it truly was, had met with the laughing god's approval. The scene grew worse. The purple Harlequin's limbs extended like writhing tentacles of energy that wrapped around any Harlequin who drew near. Those touched emitted screams that were not Eldar and began to mutate. Lewd sigils crawled over their skin. Bones warped into obscene postures. What had started as simulation had become something else. The effect curdled the stomach. Axis set down his cutlery and turned on the laughing god. "This is getting out of hand," he said. The laughing god's painted smile remained exaggerated, but behind the mask his eyes flickered. "Ah, esteemed guest," he said, "art exacts its price. Besides, this is a rare, genuine performance." Axis's lips curled. He returned his gaze to the stage. The Harlequin playing Slaanesh seemed to be losing herself. The purple energy pooled, coalesced, and the whole troupe dangled on the edge of true possession. "You're testing me," Axis said. "You set this up to see if I can keep Slaanesh from coming through. You're insane. If she bleeds through, she'll devour everything." He could not hide the warning in his voice. Slaanesh, once loose, was a voracious hunger that took souls whole. The laughing god chuckled, delighted. "We're in the Black Library. This is my territory. If Slaanesh tries to descend, the library's wards will interfere. But let us see what you can do, Lord Axis. Try to suppress her." If you succeed, or even if you fail, I will grant you access to the webway." Axis stared at the writhing performer. The purple corruption spread like a living thing, the screams and contortions knitted into a tableau of hell. The harlequin at the center had become more bestial and more alluring at once, a suffocating conflation of beauty and malice. He snorted, then gathered himself. A golden light flared from his core. He pushed his power outward, the sensation of it snapping taut and bright, and entered a state of focused, burning intent, a surge of energy he had learned to call Super Saiyan when speech failed. Ki flowed, concentrated and hot. With a single motion, he leapt onto the stage. His presence, raw, sanctified force, struck at the corrupted performers. The other harlequins were flung aside by the impact. Axis seized the central harlequin in one hand and poured his ki into her. At the same time, a golden halo kindled within his soul, a sanctified radiance that answered the malignancy. Where that sacred light met the purple taint, the chaos energy recoiled as if burned. The leering purple began to dissipate, evaporating like mist under a sun. The harlequin, ravaged by Slanesh's influence, slowly came back from the brink. Her contortions eased, the obscene sigils fading from her flesh. Slanesh's hold was broken, driven off by Axis's intervention. The laughing god laughed, a sound like cracked bells. "Oh ho, hee ha ha ha!" Light burst from Axis's palm like a sword, stabbing into the harlequin's body. The writhing purple tendrils shrieked and dissolved into green smoke under the holy light. "Fascinating! Absolutely fascinating!" Laughing god Chao Gauchi crowed, clapping and bouncing with glee, the grin painted on his mask stretched to its limits. To be able to purify even the power of the Dark Prince of Pleasure, could this be power from another universe? The purified harlequin twitched. Axis felt a chill on his palm and looked down as the dancer's mask cracked with a sharp sound. Half a pale Eldar face showed through. The left eye a crystalline amethyst, the right glowing gold. Slanesh's external power had been forced out, but somehow still clung to the host, half of its strength tethered to this Eldar through some mysterious bond. Don't stop now." The harlequin seized Axis's wrist with the back of her hand, cracked lips whispering in a hollow echo. "Continue. Purifying. I feel better than ever." She had never felt this way before. From the moment she embraced the role of harlequin and became a vessel for Slanesh's performance, that terrible connection had been her fate, the inevitable consumption of her soul by the entity. This performance was meant to be her last. Yet now, things were changing. Axis narrowed his eyes. Inside that body, two powers fought: Slanesh's corruption, a parasitic rot at the core of the soul, and the holy energy Axis poured in, splintering into countless golden needles to counter it. Strange as it was, the Eldar soul itself seemed to be cooperating with the cleanse. "You planned this well," Axis said quietly. "If I fail, what then?" He raised the output of his chi. An Eldar body was far sturdier than a human one. He needn't fear harming her. The harlequin gave a hoarse cry, eyes flashing purple and gold. Axis kept working. He could feel the last of the corruption loosen. "Hold on, this will hurt. Bear with it." His holy energy surged. The Eldar's body arched and she emitted a wrenching shriek. At first the sound carried Slanesh's layered harmonies, a voice both male and female speaking through her mouth. A strange purple eye fixed on Axis. "Outsider, I see you. I will tear your flesh, devour your soul. This is the price for taking food from my hands." The voice echoed, and the laughing god and the other harlequins recoiled, terror written on their faces. This was the Black Library, Slanesh's power. It had reached even here. "Is that so? I'm looking forward to it," Axis said with a cold snort, golden light brightening in his eyes. "I've watched your fights with the ancient Eldar gods, one-sided affairs. You think you're invincible. You haven't faced me. I'll show you the pride of a Saiyan." Slanesh laughed, its voice fraying as Axis gained the upper hand. "Oh, you think you're strong now? What is your power before a true god? I will soon send my greater demons to toy with you. Then we'll see if you're still so confident." "That'll be fun. I haven't shredded a greater demon yet. Send your strongest and send plenty," Axis replied. Seizing the moment, he clapped his hands and thrust them forward. A pure pillar of golden light drove through the Eldar's body, evaporating the last of the purple corruption. A distant howl from the warp faded, then silence. Slanesh's hold was shattered and cast out. The evolution was complete. The Eldar woman collapsed like a marionette with its strings cut. The mask lay in shards on the ground, revealing a pale, clean face. Her mismatched eyes had returned to the Eldar emerald, though a faint crystalline glimmer still lingered in the left pupil. I'm alive? She whispered, voice steady at last, no echo in it. She trembled as she touched her face, disbelief and relief mixing in her tears. Qiao Gaoqi circled her, his expression shifting until a strange, ecstatic smile spread across the painted features. A magnificent performance, a Harlequin reborn. This rewrites the script. History will be rewritten. Another Harlequin sprang to help the woman to her feet, eyes flicking to her psychic signature with amazement. Calm, steady, something almost impossible for performers who constantly brushed Slaanesh. Cassandra, how do you feel? Like waking from an endless nightmare. Cassandra inhaled deeply, tears welling. I can feel it. This endless hunger, it's gone. The link is severed. I am free. From birth, the Eldar suffered an inevitable curse, their souls preyed upon by Slaanesh. No one was spared. But now Cassandra had broken that chain, the first Eldar to truly escape Slaanesh's maw. Footsteps and excited shouts swelled from the troop. Harlequins cheered and danced. This was a moment worth remembering, the culmination of their effort. Someone had proven the connection could be cut. Celebrate, my children. This is our victory. Laughing God Qiao Gaoqi proclaimed, spreading his arms. After so many years, he tasted hope. This light was the most precious drop in this dark, bitter universe. This visitor from another world, the traveler Axis, might be the key to defeating Slaanesh. As for Yniad, the Eldar death god ruined by sacrificing souls, Qiao Gaoqi did not put much faith in that. If Yniad arose, would he be truly Eldar, or merely another chaos god? It was an uncertain, desperate gamble. Don't get carried away, Axis said, waving a hand. Your souls are bound to Slaanesh. Even if I evolved non-stop, I couldn't handle the numbers of your race. He had been able to purify Cassandra because she was exceptionally powerful, a Harlequin among Harlequins, with robust body and will. Ordinary Eldar might not survive the strain of the ritual. Harlequins were some of the strongest, and Cassandra was among the strongest of them. For the whole Eldar species, any help from him would be a single drop in an ocean. His words poured a bucket of cold water over the celebration. They had witnessed a miracle, but it was only a start. Uncertainty crept back into their faces. Do not say such things, Lord Axis, Cassandra insisted. She struggled up and fell to one knee before him. I see hope in you. You are the most precious drop of water in this bleak, despairing universe. Let me follow you. Don't kneel so fast, Axis said. Aren't you and your troop supposed to have severed your connection? Doesn't the Laughing God's protection keep your souls from being consumed when you walk the real universe? That protection keeps them from being devoured while traveling outside, Qiao Gaoqi replied with a shrug. But it does not completely sever the bond or grant true freedom. I see. Axis considered other options, sharing fruits of the mental tree or waiting until he evolved further. But then the Laughing God stepped forward with a different kind of offer. Mr. Axis, Qiao Gaoqi said earnestly, I believe our race's future lies with you. I have a premonition. As for your reward, rest assured you will be satisfied. Have you heard of the avatar of the war god? I have, Axis answered. When Slaanesh slaughtered the Eldar gods, Khorne arrived and contested Slaanesh for the Eldar war god's soul. Their clash shattered him into countless fragments. Those fragments are now scattered among the Craftworld Eldar as war god avatars. Exactly. Qiao Gaoqi produced a glowing golden orb and set it before Axis. The light from it pulsed with fierce, ancient rage. Axis stared. This was no ordinary trinket. This was a fragment of Kala Mencha Kind's essence. Axis stared at the golden orb in the Laughing God's palm, feeling the immense power contained within it. How interesting, Axis said. He had imagined many possible rewards, but never that the Laughing God would offer a soul fragment of Kala Mencha Kain. You're actually using a fragment of the God of War as a bargaining chip? Placed in an arc world, that's a superweapon, and it needs a Farseer's sacrifice to activate, because you're worth the investment. The Laughing God smiled meaningfully. The fragment of Kala Mencha Kaini has drifted among arc worlds for millennia, but no one has ever truly awoken its power. It can be used crudely as a weapon of war. Those avatars of Kala Mencha Kaini are laughable. But you are an existence capable of purifying Slaanesh's corruption. Perhaps you are the successor the god of war's divinity awaits. From what he'd observed, the laughing god believed Axis to be a pure battle maniac. Everything about him hinted that he sought godlike power. That was why he offered the fragment. Catering to someone's nature was the surest way to win their cooperation. Axis was intrigued. He already channeled the energy of a god of destruction, and absorbing more of that caliber meant he would have to walk the path of a god, transforming into something like a Super Saiyan god, Super Blue, a path that held the only real hope of defeating the four Chaos gods. "What do you mean, the god of war's divinity?" Axis asked as he took the yellow orb from the laughing god's hand. "Literally," the laughing god said. Kayla Menshikaini was unbelievably powerful, combat-wise arguably second only to Asurian, the Phoenix King. Our Eldar gods were titans back then, otherwise we wouldn't have needed to wait for Slaanesh to act. The other three Chaos gods would have destroyed us long ago. Khorne coveted the god of war's power because, in a way, warfare overlaps with his domain. Kayla Menshikain preferred to shatter himself into countless fragments rather than let Khorne reassemble him whole. And you, Mr. Axis, possess unimaginable potential. Your deeds, and even your inclinations, resonate with the divine office of war. If a second god of war rises in this universe, I believe it should be you. He admitted that Axis's manner and history faintly echoed Kayla Menshikain. The human emperor was like Asurian. Axis could be the human god of war. Axis nodded, then probed the fragment with his powerful psychic senses, searching for any lingering consciousness. He wanted Kayla's power, but he didn't want to become a vessel for someone else's resurrection. Fortunately, the soul fragment held no discernible sentience. It was inert. "Rest assured, Mr. Axis, I have not tampered with this fragment," the laughing god said. "Think of the gene seed Primarchs. The Primarchs were lesser gods created by the human emperor fusing fragments of human gods. Kayla Menshikaini is utterly dead. He cannot return." He made it clear. Kayla had been dismembered. His parts lay scattered in arc worlds and could only manifest as avatars when an Eldar Farseer sacrificed themselves to activate a fragment. "I understand," Axis said. "I accept the reward. I don't like owing favors or taking things for free. I'll help purify 100 Eldar and free them. And there's another way you Eldar might escape Slaanesh's grip. Let those purified Eldar interbreed. If their descendants are also immune, then when the older generation dies out, the new generation might be free." The laughing god burst into breathless laughter. Several harlequins nearby showed a rueful expression. "Ha ha, Mr. Axis! You don't think this is a hereditary blood disease, do you?" he said. "Soul-sucking is not a bloodline curse. I'd be grateful if you purified 100 members, but that doesn't fix the root problem. Slaanesh establishes a psychic link with the entire Eldar race. At birth, an Eldar forms that connection with the monster. Purifying a generation doesn't mean their children won't bond with Slaanesh, unless those children aren't Eldar at all." Axis's throat-slitting gesture was blunt. "Exactly," Cassandra, the harlequin at the laughing god's side, said. "Only by slaying this monster that was birthed by our race can the curse be truly broken. There's no other way." The laughing god nodded. The Eldar's hope lay along two grim paths. One was the birth of the Eldar death god, Ynied. If the Eldar race were collectively consumed, Ynied might be born from within Slaanesh and destroy him. But that required the Eldar's annihilation and might not even guarantee Slaanesh's end. The laughing god's alternative, the deadly ultimate joke, relied on the paradox that Slaanesh would never allow the Eldar to perish completely because that would bring about his own end. So the prophecy would lock into a loop. Axis offered a third possibility, a human god of war who would slay Slaanesh. If Axis rose to true godhood, he could end Slaanesh and free, or at least avenge the Eldar and strike a common enemy in the four Chaos gods that tortured both humans and Eldar. "You don't have to tell me twice," Axis said. "He's already on my list." "Ha, that's a relief, Mr. Axis," the laughing god said. "Cassandra wants to follow you. Let her. The Harlequins are among the strongest within the troop, second only to the troop master. Now that she's free of Slaanesh's clutch, her psychic power is whole. She'll be useful at your side." If Axis's power couldn't save Cassandra, the Laughing God would have assigned another Harlequin to accompany Axis as an investment. But if Axis could cut the Eldar free from Slaanesh, he would become more than an investment. He would become the Eldar's greatest hope. "It doesn't matter who follows me, so long as they can open the webway for me," Axis said. "Thank you for your trust, Lord Axis." Cassandra knelt and bowed. "Everyone else may leave for now. I want to speak with Axis alone," the Laughing God instructed, dismissing the clown troop members from his vast palace until only he and Axis remained. "Do you have something private to tell me?" Axis asked. "Indeed, Mr. Axis. First, a warning. Never underestimate those 4 scoundrels. Their power is beyond your imagination. You must always remain vigilant." The Laughing God's tone turned serious. Although Axis's key gave him resistance to warp energies and his soul, especially the sacred golden angel halo, had strong holy attributes, caution was still wise. "I will. I've never underestimated them," Axis said. He felt contempt, but he understood the Chaos Four stood at the pinnacle of the Warhammer universe's destructive potential. "That eases my mind. The Black Library records the weaknesses of Slaanesh's greater demons, Khorne's greater demons, Nurgle's great unclean ones, and Tzeentch's lords of change. If you need it, I'll share that knowledge with Cassandra. She can help you learn their vulnerabilities so you can banish them more effectively." The Black Library was an immense, ever-updating repository of forbidden lore. Axis waved a hand. "Honestly, I prefer a simpler approach. Just blast them into dust," he said. The Laughing God laughed. "Mr. Axis, you are a character." "I'm serious," Axis replied. "I won't use subtle methods. I'll crush them with absolute power." He meant it. "Suit yourself," the Laughing God said with a shrug. "That's your style." Over the next few days, the Laughing God took Axis through the Black Library. Cassandra and other Harlequins transcribed numerous psychic grimoires as backups for Axis, spells and countermeasures effective against warp incursions and space demons. Axis used those 3 days to purify 12 Harlequins. He could purify 4 a day, but they had to be among the best. Harlequins just met the threshold. Ordinary Eldar might die midway through the ritual. The Laughing God could send more candidates whenever Axis was ready to continue toward the promised 100. On the day Axis prepared to leave, the Laughing God presented Cassandra with an ornate, ancient Eldar divine sword. "Cassandra, this blade was forged by the God of Fire and was once one of Kayla Menshikaine's weapons. I collected a few. I entrust this one to you. It is attuned to harm space demons, truly a divine-grade weapon." "Great Laughing God, I will not fail," Cassandra said, kneeling and accepting the sword with both hands. "I will use it to slay Slaanesh's great demons and banish chaos. I believe in you. Mr. Axis, you are welcome back to the Black Library anytime. My servant will escort you out. And our conversation must remain private. Don't let others know." Axis nodded, thought for a moment, then took 3 small red fruits from his ship and handed them to the Laughing God. "These are spirit tree fruits, a specialty of my universe. They increase life force. You can eat them yourself or give them to your followers," Axis offered. "Of course I know what they are. I was startled when you planted that tree," the Laughing God said. "But I am a subspace god without physical form. I'm not sure I can ingest them." "You can try," Axis said. "Everything is energy at its core. The fruit is a concentration of life energy. If you can take it in, great. If not, share it among your clown troop. Use it sparingly. The life energy inside is potent." The Laughing God brightened at that. Axis was right. The fruit was pure energy. Theoretically, he could absorb it. Chapter 185, The Division of the Subgods of the Warp, Information about the Great Devourer. "You're right, Mr. Axis. If it's purely life energy, then it will indeed help me. After all, I'm also a god of order in the warp," Laughing God Chao Gauchi said, nodding as he stroked his chin. "A god of order? Are there other divisions among the warp gods?" Axis asked, curiosity in his voice. "Of course," the Laughing God answered. "The gods of the warp aren't all the same. The strongest, of course, are those 4, Chaos Incarnate. They stand for corruption, decay, hatred, greed, and darkness. Beyond those 4, there are a whole host of other gods, the Eldari gods and gods born from the faith of many mortal races. We call those the minor gods. Their strength varies wildly. A powerful minor god can sometimes contend with the big 4. A weak one can't even stand against a mortal. Right now, the most powerful of the minor gods are Gork and Mork, the orc gods. Stupid as they are, both brutal and cunning, their strength is comparable to Asurian or Kala Menshikane. Their power is real. If Gork and Mork ever teamed up, they could certainly stand toe-to-toe with a chaos god. And there are gods for many weaker races as well. The Laughing God explained the structure of the warp gods to Axis in an easy conversational way. He made it clear, aside from daemons, the warp is filled with deities spawned from the faith of mortals. He didn't mention one thing, though, the most powerful god hidden in the warp, the Dark King lying within the human emperor's soul. If that ever manifests, it would mean the end of the universe. Axis nodded. It matched the Laughing God's description. Beyond the Chaos Gods, there were many minor gods, some malignant, some ordered and protective of their peoples, like the Tau goddess who appeared later to guard her race. But Axis was especially interested in one mysterious, terrifying entity whose prestige nearly matched the Dark King's, an entity that might even surpass the four Chaos Gods. "Have you heard of the Tyranids? Where would their great devourer rank?" Axis asked. The Tyranids hadn't yet reached the galaxy in Axis' present timeline. They would only arrive millennia later. Still, the species was notorious. A hive fleet carried countless psychic units, brain bugs, Norn queens, and other synapse creatures like hive lords and hive tyrants. Whenever the Tyranids struck, they cast a terrifying shadow into the warp that drove psychers mad. Astropathic transmissions would fail, the whole planet would be consumed. In the 42nd millennium, after the Great Rift split the galaxy, the Tyranid Kronos fleet even fought an unprecedented campaign on the world of Shadowfen against large numbers of chaos demons and crushed them, slaughtering greater demons and daemon princes alike. To the Tyranids, chaos daemons were both predators and competitors. They even evolved a caste specifically to seek out and eliminate daemons. Despite such defeats, the four chaos gods made no noise. These cosmic entities did not openly challenge a force that came from beyond the galaxy, the Great Devourer. The Fourth Tyranid War pushed the Imperium to the edge. Guilliman was forced to create an artificial extermination zone within the solar system to isolate the Tyranid threat from Terra. In many ways, the Tyranids exerted pressure greater than the Chaos forces. So what god level would their sovereign be? At minimum, it would rival the four Chaos gods. It might be stronger. Yet the Great Devourer did not seem to be purely a warp entity. It was an independent, inscrutable intelligence. Until the Lion reawakened in the 42nd millennium, the main Tyranid force had not yet reached the galaxy. Everything about the Great Devourer remained shrouded in mystery. "I've never heard of them," the Laughing God said in genuine puzzlement. "Are they insectoid? If you want, I can send my harlequins to investigate. But a god born of a single species can't be stronger than the four Chaos gods." Axis's description, however, had already made a mark. The Laughing God frowned. If the Tyranids were truly that fearsome, he should have known. If they could rival the orcs, then a deity born from them might well be comparable to Gork and Mork. "I don't recall such a race," he said. "Where did you get this information?" "I have my own intelligence channels," Axis replied. "This race is peculiar. They devour biomass across the galaxy. Their organisms are essentially soldiers, units without individual souls, linked under a unified will called the hive mind. The hive mind is endlessly hungry. They're masters of genetic programming and manipulation. Their basic troops are innumerable, more terrifying in their numbers and adaptability than the orcs. Their tactics are efficient, with ambushes, frontal assaults, and ceaseless, remorseless pressure. When they strike a world, they drag a warp shadow with them that distorts nearby warp energies. Astropathic messages fail. They possess many psychic organisms and aren't far behind your Eldari in psychic capability. Before a full invasion, they'll seed a world with genestealers, stealthy parasites. Those are the real danger. Once a genestealer infects a population, it drives hosts to breed. Children born of such unions carry Tyranid traits. Genestealers emit powerful psychic signals that act like beacons for the hive fleets. They're hairless, grotesque, and they form cults that worship a four-armed deity. They establish secret cults everywhere. Axis gave a concise briefing on genestealers and the Tyranids, relaying everything his networks knew. He had considered mentioning the four-armed emperor, but had decided against it. "You're not mistaken?" the laughing god said, incredulous. There really is such a race? If so, then the great devourer's power might indeed rival, or even surpass, the four chaos gods. A harlequin standing nearby spoke up. Great laughing god, Lord Axis, we haven't heard of a tyrannid fleet like that, but we do have intelligence that matches Axis's description of the Genestealers. Tell me, Xiao Gaoqi urged. Yes, the harlequin said. We discovered an Eldari craft world on the edge of the galaxy. There was an ancient Eldar exploration team there, and when we found the survivors, they looked exactly as Lord Axis described. Bald, with psychic abilities, and strange insect-like mutations. They worshipped a four-armed deity and celebrated a day of ascension, awaiting some ultimate god to come take them away. At the time, we judged them to be infected by a biological contagion that had twisted them into that state. The patriarch of that cult was quite strong, the harlequin added, but the rank and file weren't especially powerful. How did you deal with the cult? When was this? Axis asked urgently. If humanity encountered the Tyranids now, they might still stand a chance, at least against the vanguard. The Imperium of the 30th millennium was stronger than that of the 40th. Were these creatures drawn by some beacon of the Second Empire? Had they really shown up on the galaxy's fringes so early? Lord Axis, that Genestealer cult was completely purged when we found it, the harlequin said. It was about 100 years ago. The Eldar guard their bloodlines fiercely. When they find such twisted half-breeds and mutations, they simply cleanse them. Chapter 186, Sneaky News, Disgusting Slime Planet. At that time, they had been on an ark, and when the entire cult rose up, the ship's power system was destroyed. By the time help arrived, very few Genestealers remained alive, hence their easy victory. The harlequin in front of Axis and the laughing god recounted the whole incident. All in all, the battle had been unexpected. We estimate that before the fighting began, some Eldari aboard this ark discovered the parasite outbreak, another harlequin added. Realizing they were no match, they sabotaged the ship's power system, trapping the monsters in the void. Well done. If you encounter this Genestealer strain again, eliminate it immediately, Axis said. A string of coincidences had prevented the Tyranids from detecting the psychic signatures emitted by this Genestealer brood. If not for that, the Tyranids' arrival in the galaxy could have come much earlier. Then again, probably not that much earlier. After all, these particular Tyranids had been attracted by a beacon from the Second Empire during the Great Heresy and still took 10,000 years to reach the galaxy. Only a vanguard made it. The main fleet would never arrive. If it had, other races would have stood no chance. Theoretically, Axis realized the clash between the Tyranid hive mind and Chaos could be even greater than the conflict between the human emperor and the four Chaos gods. Why? Because the swarm seeks to consume all biomass in the galaxy, even the heat of planetary cores. If the Tyranids devoured the galaxy, how would the four Chaos gods harvest negative emotional energy? How would Chaos daemons obtain the souls of sentient beings? When the Tyranids discovered that Chaos daemons were pure warp energy entities and offered no biomass, they immediately organized fleets to hunt daemons. The four Chaos gods, by contrast, showed no visible reaction, an astonishing complacency. Axis was now certain the Tyranid's great devourer was at least the equal of the four Chaos gods. We must pay close attention to this species, the laughing god said. Report any information on them to me immediately. We understand, the Harlequins replied in unison. All right, Mr. Axis, we will keep watch, the laughing god nodded. If any information comes in, I will share it with you. We shall part ways here. Until next time, laughing god, Axis answered, and he and Cassandra returned to his transport. A small troop of Harlequins guided Axis and company through the webway. It took 7 hours. They emerged in the agreed star system. Only 4 days had passed since Axis left, and the human forces still showed no sign of arrival. Axis returned to his ship, the Morning Star, and bid farewell to the Harlequins. The virtual avatar of the ship greeted him the moment he boarded. Welcome back, Father, the Morning Star said. This is Cassandra, Axis told the ship. She will be one of the crew from now on. Register her identity, assign suitable quarters, and open up some living areas for her. I understand, Father. I will register her now. Welcome aboard, Miss Spore, Cassandra. Cassandra stared at the digital presence with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. You're an artificial intelligence. No, that's not right. You possess psychic power. You're a machine spirit, she said finally. At first, she had assumed the ship was merely an AI, but careful observation revealed something different. It had a soul-like presence, more akin to a machine spirit, yet its computational power far exceeded anything she had known. Yes, Miss Cassandra. I was an artificial intelligence before. With the aid of my great father, I was transformed into a machine spirit, Morningstar replied politely. Cassandra frowned and looked at Axis, as if to ask something but refrained. Axis smiled and cut in. Don't worry, she's a high-grade machine spirit, a unique life form I shaped with my own psychic power. Morningstar was bound to him by a special warp tie, a connection similar to that between a gene father and his gene children. Axis had no fear of betrayal. Cassandra nodded and said no more. Morningstar, during my absence, did you gather intelligence on this xeno-civilization? What is their tech level? What's the biosphere like on their homeworld? Axis asked, moving to the control panel. Father, I've dispatched several recon probes, the ship answered. Their civilization is primitive at best. I cannot confirm the presence of a developed culture. Their intelligence appears low. Physically, they are repulsive to human aesthetics, slimy, soft-bodied creatures resembling slugs or slimes. Their world is covered in an acidic, gelatinous substance. That acid is harmless to their own biology and to the planet, but it is profoundly corrosive to other materials. Steel alloys can be eaten through rapidly. The atmosphere is highly toxic to humans. In short, this planet is hostile to human life and unsuitable for habitation. A holographic display on Morningstar showed the planet, surfaces smothered in green, blue, and red jelly-like organisms that occasionally fought and devoured each other. Their reproduction was by fission, sections splitting off to form new individuals. Beyond these slimes, the planet hosted no other life. No wonder Micardo had suggested issuing an exterminatus. There was nothing of terraformable value. However, several moons in nearby gas giants looked promising for conversion into forge worlds or hive worlds. The slimes here would present a hazard to local colonists. Destroying them was standard practice. They are disgusting, Cassandra said, watching the screen. Strictly speaking, this planet can sustain nothing but these soft-bodied organisms. Morningstar, what is the planet's vitality? Would it support a mental tree? Axis asked. His primary concern was the planet's life force. If vitality was low, he would use second-generation seeds and save the precious first-generation specimens. He had hundreds of second-generation seeds, but only a few dozen first-generation ones. If the biosphere was rich, he would use a first-generation seed. Father, my analysis is comprehensive, Morningstar replied. Its vitality is even higher than the world we discovered previously. The number of organisms is likely in the tens of billions. Certain corrosive substances on the surface show remarkable vitality. Overall, this world is even more vigorous than where we planted the first mental tree. The planet's life force was undeniable. In that case, proceed. We will carry out exterminatus, Axis said. Father, aren't you waiting for your human allies to arrive? No, they will come with a large fleet, and it would be unwise to have too many mortals witness the mental tree's growth. I will plant it now, harvest the fruits, and then destroy the planet, Axis replied. I understand, Father. Moving to the target planet now. Morningstar brought them into orbit over the target world. Axis donned heavy protective power armor, went to the surface, took a first-generation mental tree seed, and planted it. He then pushed his body to full power, channeling his ki into the seed with the force of a full-power Super Saiyan. The seed struck the ground, took root, and then erupted into growth, ravenously drawing in the planet's vitality. Chapter 187, Top-Grade Spirit Tree Fruit, First Encounter with Sanguinius. Just like the first time a spirit tree fruit had been planted, the roots of the psychic tree dove into the planet's core and began to drain every trace of life. The slime-like, multicolored soft creatures scattered across the surface were swallowed by those roots as if the tree's tendrils were grasping them like claws. They vanished where the roots pierced them. Insects and swarms panicked and scurried, but the roots delved deeper, devouring life force. The planet's environment collapsed, the atmosphere thinned, and even acidic wastes were siphoned and converted into the tree's life energy. Cassandra, watching from the ship, felt a chill she had never expected to experience. She had never imagined such a thing could exist in the universe. This was an entire life planet. She could have understood an army being sent in, or massive bombardment to destroy the world, but never had she seen a plant consume an entire planet's life. "What a terrifying organism," she murmured, equal parts horrified and fascinated. The psychic tree grew with feral speed. The planet's acidic soils desertified, nutrients were stripped bare, and within a day and a night, the tree towered into a colossal giant, roughly 50,000 meters tall, its roots sprawling across almost the entire globe. Over 2 days, the tree completed its feeding, and the planet was utterly drained of biomass. Life was gone. When Axis, Cassandra, and the clone he had made, Morning Star, entered the hollow at the tree's center, Axis inspected the fruit. "It's odd that the fruit grows here," Cassandra observed. "You'd think it'd be on the branches." "If it grew on the branches, harvesting would be difficult," Axis replied. "Here, inside the hollow, it's easy. Let's get to work, pick all the red fruits, and take them away." With Morning Star's robotic clone assisting, Cassandra began gathering the spirit tree fruit. Axis plucked the first fruit and ate it immediately. The taste was intensely sweet with a faint sour tang, likely a result of the growth environment. The life essence inside each fruit was about 50% richer than the first spirit tree fruit they had planted on a moon of a gas giant. These newly grown fruits were larger, plumper, and had a pinker hue. Even the seeds carried a faint red tint, edging them closer to the original generation. This life planet had been similar in size to Holy Terra, and the crop it produced surpassed that of the moon, clearly a grade above. Axis planned to test the new second-generation seeds in a third planting cycle to see what fruits they would yield. In less than half an hour, they had harvested everything. "Father, I've calculated it. We collected 846 fruits. You ate one, so 845 remain," Morningstar reported. "All right, Cassandra, take 2 fruits and give them to your companions. Have them deliver the Laughing God a pair," Axis said, handing her 2 fruits. "This fruit's power is a single use per planet. A second ingestion won't have an effect." He intended the Eldari Laughing God to become a loose ally, a source of intelligence. It wouldn't hurt to see how the Harlequin fared empowered by one of these fruits. "Next time we meet, I want to spar with the Clown God. You eat my tree's fruit. You can't do it for free. Show some fight." Cassandra nodded, accepted the fruits carefully, and activated a communicator to contact the nearby clown troop. She handed the fruits to them for delivery to the Laughing God. Afterwards, the team returned to Morning Star. By then, the planet's ecosystem was collapsing into an inert, dead world, stripped clean of biomass. "You can tell your companions that if they ever encounter a planet in this condition," Axis said, "there are 2 possibilities. Either I planted a psychic tree, or the Tyrannids are coming." "Yes, Mr. Axis," Cassandra replied gravely, and said she would inform the clown troop. That evening, a warp fluctuation tore open reality, and a Gloriana-class battleship appeared alone in the system. It was Magnus's flagship. Aboard, besides Magnus and members of the Thousand Sons Legion, were 100 Blood Angels led by the Archangel Sanguinius. At Magnus's request, Sanguinius had not brought his own Gloriana. A mortal naval commander reported with unease that the target life planet they had been tasked to exterminate us no longer resembled a living world. The radar showed no life signatures, where the planet should have been sat, a dead, airless rock. "It's odd. There's no suitable life planet in the system," the officer said. "Within the designated orbit, the planet appears dead." Magnus was thoughtful. Axis had told him of the spirit tree fruit's effects and had probably arrived first and planted his tree. "If that's the case, we don't need to perform an exterminus," Magnus commented. Axis had moved secretly this time. He'd come with only his Gloriana-class battleship's equivalent and left his main forces in a nearby system. Sanguinius's main fleet had likewise been stationed elsewhere. He had only himself and 100 Blood Angels on board. "Has Mr. Axis not arrived yet?" Sanguinius asked, standing nearly 3.8 meters tall in gilded armor, a pair of immense white wings on his back, his face strikingly handsome. "Axis should be here," Magnus replied. He beckoned Sanguinius into a private chamber. As they closed the door, a psychic ripple occurred. Axis used a psychic teleport to appear aboard Magnus's ship. His sudden arrival made the Archangel reflexively draw his weapon until Magnus signaled that all was well. "Ha ha! What a dazzling entrance! Axis, you beat us here!" Magnus greeted. Axis smiled in return. "Secrecy," Axis said conversationally. "My name is Axis, Gene Seed Primarch of the 12th Legion." Sanguinius inclined his head, respectful. "Sanguinius, Gene Seed Primarch of the Blood Angels 9th Legion, greets you." He used a formal title, Mr. Axis, rather than the familial brother the other Gene Seed Primarchs often used, a subtle distinction. Axis had not been created the Emperor's way and was not of the Emperor's bloodline. He wasn't technically their brother. He had also married their nominal elder sister, another source of quiet tension among the Primarchs. Magnus laughed lightly. "I could have erased the memories of everyone aboard this Gloriana," he said. "You needn't have worried." "I didn't want to trouble you," Axis replied. "This way no traces appear. The planet simply vanishes for a special reason." Magnus's curiosity was obvious. "Where is your ship? How did you come here? What could hide from a Gloriana's sensors?" "It's an ancient superspace fortress I came by, satellite-sized. It has superb stealth, warp travel, and incredible speed. It's parked not far away, though cloaked physically and to sensors," Axis explained. Sanguinius's mind leapt to the Phalanx, Rogaldorn's Dark Age of Technology vessel, an immense relic, now flagship of the Imperial Fists. "Like Dorn's Phalanx?" he asked. "It's even larger than Dorn's ship, a satellite-class warship," Axis said. Morning Star had been upgraded considerably, its design unlike the common celestial warships and far larger. "Then let's go see it," Magnus said. He wanted to witness the relic's power firsthand. "No problem," Axis answered, and with Magnus and Sanguinius, the three performed psychic teleportation back to Morning Star. "Welcome back, Father, and Primarchs. I am Morning Star," the ship's virtual interface announced. On the display, Morning Star manifested as a young girl. Axis had hidden certain guests, some Necrons and the Eldari Harlequin, in a secret compartment of the ship. In the ship's light, they could not be seen. Even with Magnus's psychic prowess, those hidden presences would remain unexposed for now. The two Gene Seed Primarchs frowned as they studied the artificial virtual image hovering before them. It looked exactly like an artificial intelligence. During the Dark Age of Technology, the gargantuan ships of mankind had all required AIs to run them. Without them, those behemoths could not function. Sanguinius bristled. After the Iron Men Rebellion, humanity had sworn off AIs forever. Any AI found had but one fate: destruction. "Axis, this isn't an AI, is it? How could you let something like that aboard the ship?" Sanguinius demanded. No, Sanguinius. It isn't an AI life form," Magnus said, shaking his head. "It's a machine spirit." Sanguinius could not perceive the difference, but Magnus could. He detected a soul, not unlike the spirits that dwelled in Gloriana-class battleships and other great engines of the Imperium. Those souls were machine spirits. Normally, weaker machine spirits did not communicate directly with mortals. Even the spirits of towering god machines like Titans spoke only through ritual and their operators. This machine spirit, however, possessed an unusually high intelligence. Magnus glanced at Axis. "It's extraordinary. If I had to name it, I'd call it a super machine spirit." Axis smiled and explained the origin of the Morning Star. "It's not a relic from the Dark Age," he said. "It's a machine spirit I forged with special methods. She has enormous computational power." Sanguinius listened, astonished. "I thought it was an AI relic. The truly frightening thing about AIs is their productivity. If a Men of Iron or similar construct had the resources of a single star system, it could churn out an entire new mechanical army, production wholly automated, no personnel needed." Magnus nodded. "AI and machine spirit are different. AI has prodigious computing and replication potential, but it lacks the self-governing soul of a machine spirit. A machine spirit, by contrast, lacks AI's terrifying self-replication, but it can be far more autonomous in the way it bonds with its masters." Axis said nothing for a moment, smiling to himself. His super machine spirit was more than they imagined. She had already established multiple Imperial equipment production lines. With the right materials, she could even assemble a Gloriana-class battleship. "Here," Axis said, producing two fruits he had prepared in advance. He tossed one to Sanguinius and one to Magnus. He had promised the one for Magnus earlier. The other was a gift for Sanguinius as an observer. Axis did not like to slight anyone. Sanguinius took the fruit and frowned with recognition. "Isn't this the spirit tree fruit you gave me before?" "It was astonishing. It doubled my strength. But you said a second one would have no effect." This fruit, however, was larger, fuller, and more vividly colored than the first. The scent alone made Sanguinius's mouth water. His cells seemed to ache for it. Magnus did not hesitate. He accepted his fruit without ceremony. For him, it was too valuable to decline. Axis laughed lightly. "If the fruit comes from the same tree, then a second one usually has no effect. But this is different. You've already noticed it's a full size larger. It contains a higher concentration of life essence. Eating it will significantly enhance your strength." He explained that this fruit equaled the spirit tree fruits that had been cultivated by the likes of Turles on Earth, only more perfect, having fully matured instead of being half-grown and destroyed. Sanguinius held the fruit with reverent curiosity. "You've mastered the cultivation method for this tree? How do you grow it?" "The cultivation conditions are extremely harsh," Axis replied. "For now, only I, the Emperor, and Magnus know the precise method. In the whole universe, only I can truly plant it. Even if someone obtained the seeds, they couldn't cultivate them." Sanguinius bowed his head slightly. "Forgive me. If it's an imperial secret, I shouldn't pry." "Just know it is very precious," Axis said. "Be not bashful. It is a gift. Now, let us speak of your matter, the problem with your gene seed offspring." Sanguinius's face hardened. "Yes, it's time. Magnus told you the details. There is a grievous problem in my legion's gene seed. On the surface, the sons of my legion appear normal, but within many have become bloodthirsty monsters. There is a culture of blood drunkenness, of nurturing mortal servants as blood slaves. I have been forced to found the Death Company, imprisoning those fully affected and sending them on missions where they will likely die. Horus knew of this and promised to help search for a cure, but it has been a persistent, worsening problem. When Magnus had seen Sanguinius's warriors in battle and witnessed the mutation himself, he had not denounced Sanguinius to the Emperor. Instead, he confided that his own legion had suffered genetic corruption of another kind. The two Primarchs had found common ground in their shared burden, and Magnus had suggested Axis might be able to help. "I know of your situation," Axis said. "I have thought it over. I have two possible methods, though I cannot guarantee either will solve the problem completely." Magnus gave Axis a supportive nod. Then, with a subtle psychic prod, he sent a message to Axis. Sanguinius did not know about the cultivators. Magnus had withheld that secret. Axis answered his psychic cue with a brief reply and then turned back to Sanguinius. "Tell me the methods," Sanguinius said. "I want to try anything. Battles are becoming more frequent. The instability grows." "The first is to use the power of Ki to evolve your gene seed," Axis explained. "I can help you produce a batch of perfect gene seed. In theory, implants derived from that perfect stock would be resistant to the kind of warp-related mutation you fear." "That seems reasonable," Sanguinius said. "I have seen such perfect gene seed before. It showed no signs of warp infection." "Do not be hasty in your judgment," Axis warned. "The second method is also Chi-based. During the Space Marine transmutation surgery, I would use Chi to stabilize the implants and the modifications, increasing the success rate and preventing the mutation from taking root. Combined with the perfect gene seed, the two approaches should address the problem." "These are the most feasible options I could devise," Axis added. Sanguinius considered. "Let us try the first method first, produce perfect gene seed. As for the second, Axis, you cannot remain with my legion forever. That is not realistic. That is not necessarily true." Magnus sat to the side with an expression of dawning understanding. Axis intended to reveal something about cultivators. A mysterious smile tugged at Axis's lips. In this world, aside from himself, the only beings still able to wield Chi were the cultivators. The Archangel Sanguinius was also a gene seed Primarch whose loyalty Axis could trust. Axis planned to try to produce a cultivator from Sanguinius's gene seed line. If it succeeded, that cultivator could remain with Sanguinius and serve as an escort when Axis modified his legion members. "Sanguinius, I have a special method that can help you obtain a gene seed offspring that can use Ki," Axis said. If we can grow one, it could act as an escort while I work on your legion." "There's such a method?" Sanguinius asked. "Then perhaps we should try. I brought 2 members of the Death Company with me, both locked in iron coffins and held in stasis. Would you like to see them?" "Bring those 2 mutated offspring," Axis replied. He was curious to see what the legendary vampires actually looked like. "Wait here a moment. I'll go to the ship and bring the gene seed. I brought a fair number of samples this time." Sanguinius nodded and left. "I'll teleport you back when you're ready," Magnus said, rising and raising his staff. With a sweep of psychic power, he sent Sanguinius straight to his ship, but he did not follow. Magnus's psychic strength had become extraordinary. If he wished, his mind could reach across and cover both ships. He could see everything Sanguinius did from where he sat. "Your power has grown," Axis observed. "You can teleport him without even leaving." Magnus grinned. "That spirit tree fruit you gave me earlier, decades of chi enhancement layered on top of it, made the difference. Eat the one I just gave you. With your constitution, you should digest it immediately." Axis wanted to see what would happen when a gene seed Primarch consumed a spirit tree fruit. Magnus accepted, picked up the red fruit, and ate it. It melted on his tongue. When he swallowed, a massive surge of life energy exploded through him, far stronger than the previous fruit. It flooded his body and soul, bathing every cell. A milky white glow rolled over him as his vitality surged. He felt his life level climb by roughly 80%. Physically, he estimated himself at least 3.5 times the strength of other gene seed Primarchs. "Ha ha! I feel incredible," Magnus laughed, pleasantly surprised. "This fruit's boost for a Primarch is huge. I'll reach subspace godhood with a physical body for sure." "Good," Axis said. "Once you've completed your enhancement and become a subspace god in a body, we'll spar." Magnus's eyes lit up. "Let's test now. I want to try out my new strength." "That works," Axis said with a smile. "After we handle Sanguinius's matter, we can use the ship's training room." "Fair enough," Magnus said. "I'll use psychic attacks. I can't get through to you any other way." Axis's lips curved. "I have something for you too. In the Black Library, I copied a number of psychic spells from the Laughing God, Eldar treasures. Kasha might learn slowly, but you're the perfect student. When you master them, you can teach her." "Looking forward to it," Magnus said. They chatted a while longer, until Magnus sensed Sanguinius was ready. His staff glowed blue as Sanguinius returned to the ship with 3 massive iron coffins. "Axis, I'm back," Sanguinius said. "2 of these boxes hold my mutated gene seed offspring. The other contains 500 gene seeds I brought specifically for this." "Release one of the mutated offspring for me to see," Axis requested. Sanguinius complied. He deactivated the stasis field on one coffin and swung the lid open. A creature about 2.2 meters tall crawled out, grayish-white skin like a corpse, pointed ears faintly reminiscent of the Eldar, blood-red eyes, and 2 long fangs. Its hands ended in sharp claws. It matched the ancient monstrous portraits of vampires from Holy Terra, feral, undead, not noble, but predatory. "This is what my gene seed offspring looks like after mutation," Sanguinius said, voice tinged with regret. "A savage vampire." The creature roared, scenting fresh prey. It had been starved for a very long time. It wanted blood and slaughter. Sanguinius shouted sharply to stop it, but even its gene father could not fully command the hunger-driven thing. The vampire surged forward toward Axis. Axis smiled and released the pressure of a Saiyan. The air thickened with raw, predatory aura. Halfway through its charge, the monster froze. It gaped at Axis in utter disbelief and then began to tremble uncontrollably. Fear swept across its face as if it stood before something monstrous. To the vampire's senses, Axis appeared as a colossal green-furred great ape, an avatar of destruction, bloodlust, and savagery. The creature whimpered, scuttled to Sanguinius's side, clung to his leg, and began to sob. "Good, you know fear," Axis said, amusement in his voice. "This is the first time I've seen them afraid," Sanguinius said, surprised. "They resemble those legendary vampires," Axis added, watching the cowering creature. "But vampires are supposed to be undead. This one still has a heartbeat." Chapter 190, Archangel. Is the Primarch really a lesser god of the warp? "I find it strange, too," Sanguinius said, the helplessness in his voice barely masked by his composure. "I am supposed to be a holy archangel, and yet my gene seed offspring turn into these bloodthirsty monsters. Let me take a closer look. Axis nodded and reached into the void. His miraculous chi energy latched onto the vampire in front of them and pulled him through the air. The creature screamed in terror as Axis seized him by the throat and lifted him up. Axis scanned the vampire's body with his chi, frowning deeply. His genes have been completely altered, Axis said. He's not human anymore. Subhuman or mutant would be a more accurate term. These vampires were reproductively isolated from humans. They weren't simply sick men, but bloodthirsty monsters. Sanguinius, can my gene seed offspring still be saved? Sanguinius asked. No, Axis said, shaking his head. My chi can resist the erosion of warp energy, but your gene seed's changes are at the genetic level. Once they reach this state, there's no restoring them. Chi was powerful, he explained, but not omnipotent. It could ward off warp influence, but it couldn't rewrite corrupted genetics. Sanguinius sighed. Then let's try to evolve my gene seed. Perhaps that's our only chance. Axis knocked the mutated vampire unconscious, handed him back, and went to the iron cabinet that held the gene seed. Sanguinius entered the combination lock and opened the case to reveal rows of fleshy spheres, each studded with barbed protuberances. Axis placed a palm on the cabinet and infused it with chi. The energy flowed into the gene seed, beginning the work of purifying and removing the warp's taint. If you ignored the bloodthirsty symptoms, Sanguinius's gene seed was actually quite sound. The Blood Angel's combat prowess wasn't weak because of the seed itself. Over the next several tens of minutes, Axis completed the purification. The once barbed spheres transformed into smooth, perfectly round, fleshy orbs. There, Axis said, I've evolved your gene seed. Theoretically, it's now as perfect as it can be and won't be invaded by warp influence. You can use these on your new recruits. Axis had noticed something odd. Sanguinius's gene seed wasn't saturated with warp energy like Magnus's. It was cleaner, but it carried an inherent design flaw, deliberate in a sense, similar to the Canis helix of the Space Wolves. Those flaws amplified combat ability at the cost of a genetic instability, the Wolves' tendency toward looping transformations, and the Blood Angel's tendency toward bloodlust. It wasn't a curse from the warp so much as an embedded optimization with catastrophic side effects. Will these perfected gene seed remove the bloodthirsty condition entirely? Sanguinius asked. It will significantly reduce the probability, Axis answered, but it will not eliminate it, not unless the offspring are no longer your gene seed descendants. This is a problem inherent in your genes, not a simple warp curse. Sanguinius's face fell. His last hope had not been absolute. Even with Axis's chi, the risk remained. Magnus stepped forward and put a hand on Sanguinius's shoulder. It's not nothing, Sanguinius. At least the chance of that disease manifesting will be greatly reduced. Sanguinius, you said Axis could assist during the Space Marine modification surgeries with Ki, Sanguinius said. If we apply your method during induction and growth, won't that help? Of course, Axis said. It treats the symptoms and reduces the probability, as we've said. But it doesn't change the root cause, a flaw in the genes themselves. He pointed out how, with the Space Wolves and Russ, perfecting the gene seed and using chi had reduced werewolf mutations to a single-digit occurrence over many years. The Canis helix still existed, boosting the wolves' fighting prowess, but its worst excesses were contained. That's something, Sanguinius said. If the Death Company stops swelling and the Legion looks more normal, I'll take it. I'll think of other approaches too. With the purified seed and Axis's suggestion to cultivate special offspring with chi, the problem could be greatly alleviated. Sanguinius felt indebted to Axis. He would repay the debt. Then Magnus, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. Sanguinius, there may be another way, a way to free your gene seed offspring from this symptom completely. Both Axis and Sanguinius froze. Axis wondered what Magnus could possibly know that he did not. Sanguinius remembered Magnus's earlier admission that he had seen no solution, and he wondered what had changed. Magnus, you told me before there was nothing, Sanguinius said. There wasn't before, Magnus replied. But now the picture is different. Axis is right, it's a problem in your genes. So if you want to eliminate the disease entirely, you have to go to the source of those genes. The source is you. You mean me? But I don't have any bloodthirsty symptoms at all. Sanguinius's indignation was immediate. He was an archangel, great white wings, a nature that should bless those who inherit him. How could the problem lie in him? Magnus's expression grew serious. Did Father tell you anything about the true nature of the warp? Sanguinius nodded slowly. Horus told me some things, and Father disclosed part of the truth to the gene seed Primarchs. There are malignant warp gods who seek to corrupt humanity. On Terra, after Axis and Kasha's identities had been revealed, the Emperor had revealed parts of the warp's truth to them. There were 4 malign entities, the Chaos Gods. But there were things Father had not said, things like Erda and the deeper origins of the Primarchs, known only to a select few. Yes, Magnus continued, Father was right about the Chaos Gods. They are vile and they tried to corrupt me once. The flesh mutations in my legion were their doing. I thought the same might be true of you. Using my psychic sight, I once believed one of the Chaos Gods, the one of bloodlust, war, and slaughter, had a particular interest in you and had cursed your seed. But now that my psychic power has grown, I can see more clearly. Magnus's gaze shifted to Axis. What I actually see is that this war god, Khorne, sought to corrupt Axis and was repeatedly drawn to him. But Axis's chi and his sacred soul form an impenetrable barrier. Khorne never truly cursed Axis's seed. I've had a similar struggle. A certain blue, bird-like entity, a temptress of change, has tried to ensnare me, but I resisted. You were noticed by Khorne, Sanguinius, but not truly cursed. Sanguinius blinked, confused. So you believe it's still something in my genes? No, Magnus said. What I want to tell you now is the truth about us, the gene seed Primarchs. The truth? Sanguinius repeated, wary. Yes, we were created by Father in body. Genetically, we are his offspring. But spiritually, we are not human children of the Emperor. We are powerful life forms from the warp. We are, in effect, lesser gods, beings formed when fragments of warp divinity fused. Magnus drew a breath and let the revelation hang in the air. Sanguinius's face hardened. Enough. His voice was stern. Magnus, however close we are, some things should not be said. I am human, truly human, not some monster of the warp. I do not wish to hear this again. You're deceiving yourself, Sanguinius, Magnus said. How could a human be so tall, so strong, so gifted? You even grew wings, and the anomalies in our offspring, those strange, twisted forms, are not simply biology gone wrong. Whether you accept it or not, we are life forms born of the warp. The flaws in the gene seed come from us. If we become stronger and more perfect, can't we solve the problem at its source? Axis glanced at Magnus, wary. Magnus, you're not trying to persuade Sanguinius to ascend to godhood with you, are you? Isn't that what we are already? Magnus asked, turning toward Axis with a meaningful look. He knew Axis had long been intrigued by the idea of greater power. Don't you want it, Axis? Don't you want the power of a god? Sanguinius frowned and stepped between them. He felt as if he were being drawn into something far larger and more dangerous than a discussion of gene seed. What exactly are you two proposing? He demanded. Magnus's voice was quiet and fervent. Our bodies and our souls are not matched. Our souls are stronger, more complete. If we can elevate our physical forms to the level of our souls, we will attain unprecedented power. I call it ascension, taking our rightful place as gods. Sanguinius's expression became a painful mixture of anger and disbelief. He had never considered himself anything other than a son of the Emperor and a guardian of humanity. Now Magnus spoke of bridging the chasm between body and spirit, of embracing something that, if true, could change everything about what it meant to be a Primarch and what it might cost. Chapter 191. Admit it, Sanguinius. You have psychic powers too. Sanguinius stared at Magnus as if he had gone mad. Become a god? He must have misheard. Magnus had actually said it, that he was going to become a god. For a few seconds, the Archangel's mind simply crashed. He had no reply, no countermeasure. The claim was too outrageous. Was this still the scholar, the master of arcane philosophy whom he thought he knew? I know you're shocked, Sanguinius, but I'm telling the truth, Magnus said calmly. If you don't believe me, go to Holy Terra and ask Father yourself. Father had promised Magnus that they would roam the warp together. To do that, Magnus said, one would normally have to abandon the physical body entirely and surrender any right to walk the real universe. Now, Magnus argued, there was a different way. Both he and the Emperor could retain their bodies, explore the warp's mysteries, and still move through the physical cosmos, even beyond the galaxy. The galaxy, Magnus said, was only a speck in a much larger universe. Magnus, are you insane? Do you know what you're saying? This is heresy. Sanguinius snapped, drawing himself up. His golden wings beat once, and he half drew his greatsword. I'm not lying, Magnus replied. We are Father's sons. Like him, we are subspace gods, beings of the warp. The statement landed like a bomb. Sanguinius felt his composure fracture. Father a god? From the warp? It couldn't be. The Emperor had been born on Holy Terra, had parents and a human origin. The Primarchs had been told as much. Magnus's words grew more outrageous by the moment. Sanguinius, Magnus is acting strange, Sanguinius said, turning to Axis. You and I need to take him in and bring him back to Holy Terra. If he's been seduced by the warp's malign gods, we must stop him. Sanguinius's concern was practical and selfish. One brother had gone off the rails, and he did not want another to follow. Axis's reply made his stomach drop. I do want to become a god, Axis said, but not the way you Primarchs would. Magnus's method isn't suitable for me. And Sanguinius, Magnus is right. The Gene Seed Primarchs are secondary gods of the warp. Father is a subspace god too. Magnus's plan wouldn't suit Axis because Axis considered himself essentially mortal in a way the others were not. The Gene Seed Primarchs were gods only lacking a proper, fully empowered physical form. If their bodies were enhanced, their godhood could be reclaimed. The spirit tree fruit Axis had provided did that. It strengthened flesh and bolstered the soul, making those who ate it closer to divinity. Hence the fruit's nickname, Fruit of Gods. No wonder it was said to be fit only for gods. Axis, what are you saying? Are you two going to betray Father? Sanguinius's voice rose. He could hardly believe his brothers could speak so openly. We mean no harm to the Emperor, Axis said, hands open in a placatory gesture. We're not betraying him. There are truths you simply don't know. Everything Magnus and I have said is true. Sanguinius felt his friendships tilt. The ship of camaraderie had capsized around his ears. He hadn't even done anything to deserve this, only listened. And now he was to be accused of ignorance. Enough, Sanguinius bellowed. Stop this now. If I have to, I will pretend none of this happened, but you two must repent. Magnus, however, struck at the one place he knew would hurt. Stop lying to yourself, Sanguinius. Don't you feel it? Every time you travel through the warp, don't you sense something familiar calling you? And that was the knife. Each voyage through the warp had left Sanguinius with a strange, intimate feeling, an echo, a call, and after he ate the spirit tree fruit Axis had given him, that feeling had grown stronger. He couldn't deny it. Could it be? Was he truly a subspace god? For the first time, Sanguinius's faith wavered. He grasped for excuses. Maybe the red fruit had been tainted, but he knew that logic failed. The fruit showed no warp fluctuations. It was just a fruit that strengthened life energy and the body. If it were corrupting, the Emperor would have known. The Emperor had eaten the fruit too and had praised it. Besides, Axis said with a small, knowing smile, you do have psychic power, Sanguinius. Your ability to fly isn't really dependent on those wings. Given your mass, those wings are decorative. In space or on a planet's surface, they'd be useless. They couldn't produce the lift your body would require at supersonic speeds. Sanguinius felt his face flush at the practical argument. The calculations were brutal. To lift a human-sized being by pure winged flight would need enormous wings, and Sanguinius, nearly 4 meters tall and armored, was several tons. The 2 pairs of wings he bore, with a span of only about 5 meters, simply could not generate the lift required. They had always been symbolic and beautiful, not a realistic method of propulsion. You're right, Sanguinius said at last, his voice low. My wings are mostly decoration. I fly because of psychic power. The admission felt like a confession. Admitting it explained why he had always tolerated psychers and why he had supported Magnus's idea of the intellect library. It also explained why he'd been reluctant to acknowledge the truth, to accept that he, too, was one of the warp-touched. All the Primarchs possess some ability to glimpse the future, Axis went on. My foster father, Leman Russ, has seen things. Sanguinius, you've had visions too, haven't you? Axis's probe sent Sanguinius's defenses crumbling further. He clenched his fists until the knuckles cracked. Russ had visions. He himself had seen the Emperor's arrival long before it happened. Worse, he had seen his own death in a duel by the hand of one of his closest brothers. He didn't know which brother, only that it would be one of the gene seed Primarchs. Magnus threw back his head and laughed, a short, thrilled sound. Yes, I knew it. I'm not alone. You're all psychers. Russ, you others. Only Axis and I have embraced the psyche openly. You're sympathetic to psychers and supported the intellect library, Magnus pressed. But why reject your own nature? Is it shameful to be a psycher? Sanguinius had no answer. He could not deny it. He had psychic power, and he had seen the future. A small private smile tugged at Axis's lips. Between the two of them, they had managed to break the Archangel's will simply by speaking truths he had been avoiding. All right, Sanguinius said, the confession tasted of iron. I admit it. My psychic power is strong. I have seen my future. I will die in a duel at the hands of one of my closest brothers. Magnus stared, incredulous. What? How could anyone kill their own brother? I don't know, Sanguinius said softly. But my visions have never been wrong. He glanced at Axis as he spoke, and in that look there was an edge of something else, a recognition that some fragments of his prophecy had already come to pass. His psychic sight had hinted that Axis might one day resolve issues tied to his gene seed offspring. The knowledge settled between them like a warning and a promise both. Chapter 192. Get Archangel to join us, the most handsome angel cultivator. The solution wasn't perfect, but it was a significant relief. Sanguinius had a premonition that this perfected gene seed, combined with a gene seed offspring imbued with chi energy, would do the most to suppress outbreaks of the Black Rage and drastically reduce the number who fell into the Death Company. I can help you, Sanguinius. Together, our psychic power will see a clearer future. I want to see who killed you, Magnus said at once. If anyone else had killed his brother, he could understand, but brothers killing brothers was intolerable. Let's not discuss that now. It's not the time. Axis waved a wing, signaling Magnus not to press on. This was bound up with the future great heresy. Axis, in his giant butterfly form, had already stirred a storm. No one could say how the heresy would unfold. Do you know something, Axis? Magnus asked. I know some things. The Emperor knows more. But believe me, this is the Imperium's ultimate secret, a matter of humanity's survival. I can't tell you yet, Axis replied, cautious. Everything tied back to the Dark King. Axis had to be careful. All right, we'll leave that. Sanguinius, let's talk about your situation. If you'll carry out my plan, we can ascend to become subspace gods with physical bodies. We might not match the Chaos Four in the warp in raw power, but we'll be potent enough to influence many outcomes. Once your life level rises to godhood, we'll extract a gene seed from you, one far more perfect. You'll be able to correct defects in the gene seed offspring at will, and the Black Rage will be much easier to resolve, Magnus explained. If a gene seed Primarch reclaims his power as a lesser god, that could work. Axis nodded, agreeing. Ha ha! I knew you'd be on board, Axis. Magnus clapped Axis on the shoulder, delighted. So what's the purification method? Does it involve that spirit tree fruit? Sanguinius asked, holding the red fruit Axis had given him. Exactly. That fruit, also called the fruit of God, is said to be edible only by gods. Magnus figures that if you eat 10 of them, your physical form will be able to bear your soul more fully, and your soul itself will be refined, Axis said. We're lesser gods in the warp. Tell me about that, Sanguinius pressed. Of course, brother. I won't hide anything from you. Our father, the Emperor, entered the warp while creating us and somehow obtained fragments of human lesser god souls. He divided those fragments into 20 parts and used them to form our souls. Afterwards, he returned to the Materium and made bodies for us. But even with the highest human genetic arts, he could only fashion vessels that barely contained those souls. Because our origins are in the warp, every gene seed Primarch carries unique gifts, psychic power, and a warp essence, Magnus revealed. He spoke freely, how the Emperor procured the Primarch's souls, the origin of the lesser god fragments. Magnus had theories. It must be linked to the Chaos Four, and perhaps even to deception by their father. Is father a lesser god like us? Was he formed from fused soul fragments? Sanguinius asked. Father is different. I don't know the specifics, but he's no ordinary human, far stronger than any of us, Magnus said. The Emperor's psychic power had elevated his physical presence to a level their own created bodies could not match. Other immortals, though unaging and resilient, looked much like normal people. Only the Emperor was exceptional. Axis nodded quietly. The Emperor's true origin had many interpretations before the transmigration. Some claimed he was formed from the fusion of ancient Terra shamans' souls, a weak theory. Another tale said those shamans summoned the Dark King, sealed him into a human infant, and spent their souls to bind a duty of protection into that child. Legends even called the Emperor the Dark King's alternate account, but few truly knew the Dark King's identity. During the Great Heresy, even the Chaos Four mistook Horus for him. "This is incredible. Did Father tell you this?" Sanguinius asked. "Some of it is my conjecture, but Father did tell me many truths. Believe me, Sanguinius, I will never betray him. I owe him my loyalty," Magnus insisted. Axis had to suppress a smile. Magnus was indeed devoted, perhaps too much. After learning of Horus's betrayal, Magnus had tried to reach the Emperor psychically and was then tricked by a certain blue birdman, which led to his fall as a gene seed Primarch. That fall was also tied to Magnus's unauthorized prying into the warp and his private dealings with Tzeentch. "I understand. I'll accept your plan and undergo the ascension ritual with Magnus," Sanguinius said, drawing a deep breath. His psychic sense told him this was the right path. "Ha-ha! Welcome, Sanguinius. You're the first Primarch to join. With you, more of our brothers will follow," Magnus said. "No," Sanguinius said, shaking his head. "Do not actively recruit others unless their gene seed is flawed. I'd feel like I were pushing them into a fire. Even with Horus, my closest, I'll keep this from him. I've noticed a strange change in him since he was on Holy Terra. He seems distracted, even vaguely hostile toward Father. I don't know why." "This process is long," Magnus warned. "We'll need to temper our bodies constantly. That demands vast amounts of life essence and chi energy to strengthen both soul and flesh. The first step is to create a gene seed offspring charged with chi energy to nourish you. Over time, our bodies will grow stronger and hold more life force until we reach a qualitative transformation." "How do I get such an offspring?" Sanguinius asked. "Follow me." Axis led Magnus and Sanguinius down to the Morning Star's lower deck, into a basement lined with fertile soil. "Sanguinius, take out one of your perfected gene seeds and some fresh blood," Axis instructed. Sanguinius nodded and retrieved a perfected gene seed, one Axis had refined, from an iron cabinet. Axis produced a cultivator seed, placed it within the gene seed, and buried them in the soil. "Now pour in a nutrient solution, and your blood," Axis said. Sanguinius complied. He drew the high molecular dagger from his waist and slit his wrist. Bright red blood welled and ran. Though mortal blood, to Axis it gleamed differently. Sanguinius's blood shimmered with golden light. No wonder the blood angels cried, "For the blood of Sanguinius!" With the Primarch's blood and the nutrient solution in place, Axis channeled his chi energy to awaken the cultivator seed. Beneath the soil, a huge cocoon of flesh formed and began to grow. Unlike Magnus's previous attempt, this gene seed offspring did not require psychic power input. A few hours later, a cultivator broke the soil. 2 meters 3 tall, slender and perfectly proportioned, human skin tone, slightly pointed ears, and a pair of white wings. He inherited the Archangel's features and was, without question, the most handsome and beautiful among the cultivators, closer to human in appearance than most, save for the ears and wings. Chapter 193, A Special Heir, Sanguinor? The Secret of the Empire. Even among humans, his face would be called a masterpiece of beauty. He had truly inherited the blood of an archangel. Who would have thought cultivators could look like this? Cultivators in the Dragon Ball world were nothing short of alien monsters. Even the demon who had absorbed parts of Boo had turned grotesque, but the Primarch gene seed produced a different kind of transformation. The newborn stirred. 2 pairs of pure white wings unfolded behind him, and then he floated before Sanguinius and dropped to one knee. "Father," Sanguinius stared, stunned. The way this gene seed offspring had been made left him speechless. He looked human, perfectly so, save for slightly pointed ears and the sweeping wings identical to Sanguinius's. But those wings were the most unreasonable thing of all. How could a human be planted and then born in a matter of hours? It defied every natural rule Sanguinius knew. Still, There was no denying the bond he felt with this child, blood kinship, unmistakable and even stronger than with some of his other gene seed offspring. Axis, is he a space marine? Sanguinius asked. Axis nodded. Yes, as you see, he is a space marine. All 19 superhuman organs have fully developed. Sanguinius could only stare. The way the organs had formed, so like his blood angels, was uncanny. They had all drunk his blood and sprouted superhuman organs. Yet this had happened in a different, rapid way that Sanguinius couldn't fully explain. When Axis first produced these gene seed offspring for me, I was as surprised as you, Magnus said, stepping forward. They're a special kind of cultivator. I suspect they're the technological legacy of humanity from the dark age of technology. He had once believed orcs or beastmen might be involved, but the evidence pointed elsewhere. These life forms bore clear marks of artificial modification, bioweaponry from an era when men could reforge life itself. Whatever hands shaped them, it was most likely human ingenuity from that lost age. What alien race could alter beings that could incorporate a Primarch's bloodline and still look human? Sanguinius glanced between Axis and the young space marine. And he can use chi? Yes, Axis said. Calling it chi means he can, in time, harness that energy to help evolve perfect gene seed. He can assist in modification surgeries for your gene seed progeny and use chi to strengthen his own body. As natives of the Dragon Ball world, they can also eat spirit tree fruit. With chi, they can better decompose and extract the fruit's life energy, something ordinary life forms here can't do except by sheer physical endurance. The advantages these special offspring brought were numerous. In combat, they were formidable, second only to their Primarch fathers in many cases. If they consumed spirit tree fruit, they would be even more terrifying. Father, please give me a name. I was just born today, the kneeling blood angel asked. He had Sanguinius as sire and Axis as master. His future was to remain at his father's side. Sanguinius thought for a moment. Sanguino, he said aloud, almost on impulse. Axis made a faint sound of amusement. Sanguino's identity had always been wrapped in myth. Some said he was a fragment of Sanguinius's soul, others that he was Ascalon from 10,000 years past. The latter theory strained credulity. Space Marines didn't live that long unless warped by chaos. In the legends of later ages, Sanguino remained a golden, elusive figure, one who appeared most famously during the Battle of Baal. Before the crossover, Axis and some Warhammer aficionados had entertained the idea Sanguino might be Ascalon, elevated by Sanguinius into an alternate demon prince, but it had been only speculation. I think we should change it, Axis offered. Archangel Gabriel or Michael, those would be fitting. Those are names from the old Holy Terra myths, Sanguinius mused. They'd be apt, but something tells me Sanguino fits him best. Magnus clapped once, approving. Sanguino suits him. He has your wings and your face. It makes sense. Axis shrugged. Call him what you will. If you want Sanguino, then Sanguino he is. Sanguinius smiled at the special offspring. Then from this day you will be Sanguino, my son. You will remain by my side as my adjutant. Given the oddity of his origin, Sanguinius decided not to assign him to a company. He would keep the child close and watch him carefully. To the Empire, this boy would still count as human, neither subhuman nor mutant, so there was no immediate political problem. All right, Sanguinius. With this resolved, welcome to our alliance, Axis said. Sanguinius gave a weary breath. Alliances, imperial secrets, these were headaches. As long as we remain loyal to the Imperium, loyal to humanity, loyal to the Emperor, then alliances matter less. Axis's face grew serious. He had another secret to reveal. Sanguinius, the Imperium hides many truths. For example, your gene seed Primarchs have a mother. Sanguinius and Magnus exchanged shocked looks. Axis, Magnus began, incredulous. Please, don't toy with us. We were created by Father. We grew in tanks. We have a mother? Axis held up a hand. You were scattered across the galaxy because of her. Their mother was seduced by the Chaos Gods. She believed she was doing right by granting you freedom, but her actions took you away from the Emperor and scattered you. That's why you were scattered. Because she turned. The idea that the scattering had been orchestrated by their mother struck like a blow. Sanguinius's thoughts darted to Horus. Had Horus learned something of this? Had an encounter with their mother changed him on his return to Holy Terra? Sanguinius's mind filled with doubt and cold questions about Horus's altered temperament. Don't ask about her, Axis warned. You know my wife, Kasha? She is the daughter of the Emperor and your mother. By blood, Kasha is your elder sister. The revelation softened Magnus's features. To discover they had an elder sister, related by blood, eased some wound. Sanguinius took in the information, battling a mix of curiosity and dread. Magnus, meanwhile, felt a twinge of relief mixed with grief. Late knowledge, but kin all the same. Is there any way to change things? To save her? Magnus asked after a moment. Believe me, Magnus, there is no redemption for her, Axis said without hesitation. She made a terrible choice and has never shown remorse. That final fact is crucial. If you know you are wrong and refuse to repent, there is nothing to be done. She belongs locked away on holy terra. Axis's tone hardened. In some traditions, even the scoundrel Erebus had been praised by a few as doing one good thing, killing Erda, the mother of the gene seed Primarchs. Axis had his own reasons for having pushed Horus out in the old days, not to save Erda, but to expose her and force the Emperor's hand to imprison her. Sanguinius exhaled slowly. It was painful, but the verdict was clear. At least there was Kasha, an elder sister, a blood relative, and that knowledge steadied him a little. When I first met Kasha, she felt familiar, Magnus said. I thought she was a junior at the time. To learn she's my sister now, it's strange, but it's something. Come with me, Axis said. I have something for you. What is it? Magnus asked, curious. Axis smiled. I brought back some psychic grimoires from the Black Library. The Black Library? Magnus's eyes widened. Of course I know of it. Prospero has records. How did you get in? The Eldar and their webway guardians don't make that easy. Don't worry about how. Just know I acquired them. Axis led Magnus to a private storeroom. Shelves upon shelves held copies, psychic texts copied from the Black Library and other dangerous materials. Magnus stepped inside like a pilgrim entering a sacred place. This is incredible, he breathed. These grimoires, my Book of Magnus, will be more complete than ever. Axis chuckled. Study them for a few days, then we'll find a place to spar. Chapter 194, The Forbidden Knowledge in the Black Library, a spell even Axis considers heretical. He wanted to see how deep Magnus's mastery of sorcery really ran. Psychic power wasn't only about raw offense. Clever, unexpected applications could produce astonishing results. I understand, Axis, but please, don't disturb me. I'm lost in an ocean of knowledge, Magnus said. Axis acknowledged him with a casual nod, and Magnus resumed his frantic perusal of the books strewn about the room. The grimoires and notebooks in the Black Library were incalculably precious. To Magnus, they were treasures beyond price. His eyes skimmed pages with impossible speed. A large tome would scarcely be opened before he had absorbed everything within it and closed it again. The Primarch's mind committed each text's contents directly to memory. These books are the real treasures, Magnus said, excited. They contain so much psychic lore, oddities, rare techniques. Some can even transmute an enemy into an animal, altering their gene seed. Here's an amusing one, a disguise spell. Let me show you the principle. Ha, it's simple. He spoke, wove a small spell, and in an instant transformed himself into the spitting image of Sanguinius. Feathered wings unfurled from his back. Axis, isn't he exactly like Sanguinius? Look at these wings. I just learned this. Magnus beamed. Axis clapped, then gave a thumb up. In minutes you've learned a new psychic effect. Your talent is astonishing, Axis said. Magnus's gift for psychic lore was notorious. On Prospero, he had risen to become the foremost psyker on the planet, surpassing his own teacher, mastering entire bodies of knowledge in years, and even inventing new techniques. The Emperor's power might be greater, but Magnus's facility for learning was unmatched among humans. Ha, my talent is more than that, Axis. I'm the most learned, the most inventive. Any psychic work I glance at, I can learn in a night. The problem that plagued all of Prospero for centuries, I resolved in one evening and spent half a day improving it. He flipped through another volume Axis had brought. Axis watched him quietly, a small smile on his features. Magnus continued to read aloud, thrilled. This one's useful, a gravity-based discipline. That one offers improved resistance to warp daemons. But the most astonishing theory is here. Listen, supposedly one can use psychic power to dominate warp daemons, enslave them, and turn them to one's purpose. Enslave daemons? Is that even possible? Axis asked, incredulous. The notion was audacious to the point of madness. In theory, yes, if your psychic strength exceeds theirs, you can bind them, but the ritual is horrendous to perform. You'd need the daemon's true name and a series of complex rites. The book's theory is incomplete, but I think I can refine it, Magnus said, eyes alight. It's a dangerous idea, Axis replied. The author of this book is brilliant but reckless. He doesn't stop there. He extends the theory to using the warp itself, extracting a daemon's soul. The text argues that a daemon's essence is a form of warp energy. If daemons can feed on mortal souls, why could a powerful psyker not consume a daemon's soul instead? It's a perilous concept. Warp corruption is potent. I don't agree with this author's conclusions. Magnus agreed. It is dangerous. Extracting daemon souls would be suicidal without safeguards. No wonder the Emperor was wary of some psyker studies. Magnus flipped further, aghast and exhilarated at once. Listen to this. This author even suggests summoning a mighty daemon, binding it inside a psyker's body, using the body as a cage to draw the demon's power and cast devastating magic. Axis's voice hardened. A madman's work. No human should think like that. He wasn't human, Magnus said. This is an Eldar sorcerer's notebook, likely from the height of the ancient Eldar Empire. Their theories are brilliant and deadly. Aside from the daemon enslavement idea, which might be workable with refinement, most of this should be sealed and never read. Axis frowned. Even if it were possible, the social and political consequences would be catastrophic. People already fear and loathe psykers. If they learned psykers could summon daemons to fight for them, hatred and panic would spread. The Emperor and the other Primarchs would never permit such research. It's heresy, not just technically perilous. Magnus's face darkened as he read another passage. There's more. Crueler, more forbidden rites, a magic circle to imprison living beings, harvest their flesh and souls to craft special soul crystals that amplify psychic power. Even trade with daemons is suggested. Axis finally understood why so much in the Black Library was taboo. He saw, with fresh clarity, the moral depravity of those ancient Eldar sorcerers when their civilization stood at its pinnacle and even their gods contended with the entities of the warp. To them, such research was merely possible science. The modern Imperium's reality is very different. Magnus put down one volume and picked up another. Some of this is beyond comprehension. Planet compression sorceries, spells that alter time within a star system. There's even a new kind of warp shielding more advanced than our Gellar field, and it supposedly doesn't require a psyker battery. That would be worth studying. If true, it could replace the Gellar field. That would be invaluable, Axis agreed. Magnus set aside yet another notebook, his tone now a mixture of awe and horror. And then there's the flesh and blood technology. This is more advanced and darker than our gene seed cloning. The theory claims that if perfected, you could resurrect the dead. It's surgical, biochemical, and ritual in equal measure. Flesh and blood technology capable of resurrection, Magnus's mind raced. It sounded like the homunculi's arts of Kamara. The homunculi dealt in grotesque life extension, cloning, and perverse resurrection. Coven leaders and archons were often restored through their work. For millennia, entire Dark Eldar houses would rely on such techniques, most of their population not born naturally, but fabricated by the homunculi. They extended lifespans by tens of thousands of years, and their experiments knew no ethical bounds. Magnus's voice dropped. They even speak of cloning the Emperor and of grotesque creations, mutant beasts made from tyrannid gene forms to entertain the arenas. A hive tyrant altered for gladiatorial spectacle. Imagine that. Axis made a low sound that could have been a laugh or a sigh. The Black Library contained knowledge both wondrous and terrible, and the deeper Magnus delved, the clearer it became why some rites and theories were locked away. Some secrets were discoveries, others were traps that devoured the soul of anyone who dared use them. With this technique, the homunculi had even been invited by the Imperium to work on the Golden Throne. Fleshcraft like theirs made human cloning look like child's play. What's the theory behind this resurrection? Could someone come back even if their body or their soul is destroyed? Axis asked. No, it's not that omnipotent, Magnus replied. First, you need a bespoke service. We take a gene seed blood sample, then use a special method to anchor the soul. If you're killed later, the fleshcraft can restore the body and reinstate the soul. It's especially suited to the Eldari. Before Slanish's birth, they were effectively immortal. Death for them was a passage through the warp, and they could return. Their souls are powerful, bright beacons in the warp, and with the right technology, those souls can be captured and returned. For humans, though, unless the soul is exceptionally strong, this sort of resurrection is impractical. Magnus shook his head. This was Xeno's fleshwork and cloning, not fields he mastered. Making it compatible with humans would require massive experimentation. Can the flesh tech be used for other biological creation? Axis asked. He had thousands of second-generation cultivator seeds, monstrous fighters that couldn't generate chi but still packed huge combat power. Could they be modified? It can, Magnus admitted, but that's not my specialty. I wouldn't recommend we research this Xenos tech. Understood. I won't bother you. I'll give you 3 days. Try to learn some spells. We'll spar after that. I'll try my best. I'll study offensive psychic techniques. I'll make it worth your while, Magnus promised. Axis left Magnus alone with the tomes and diagrams. The next day, Sanguinius arrived. He met Axis, traded a few words, then asked about Magnus. He's drowning in books, Axis said. 2 days more, then the spar. You're welcome to watch. Sanguinius' eyes brightened. You're sparring with Magnus? After yesterday's return, he had reorganized his gene seed offspring, pushed chi into his body, and eaten the second spirit tree fruit. His strength had shot up again. The Archangel felt he could take Horus at 2/10 of his full power. Already gentle and courtly in manner, in combat Sanguinius turned fierce, bloodthirsty and warlike. He trained against Emperor-class titans with a power sword. Few could stand against him. If you want someone to fight, I can join, he offered. Excellent, Axis said. Let's go to the training ground. They went down into the cavernous training hall beneath the morning star. Axis had built it himself, an arena the size of a city, lined in the finest superalloy. Sanguinius stared. You actually constructed this on the ship? He marveled. It lets us practice freely. Flight, maneuvers, Axis said. He felt the chi bubble up and rose a few meters, a faint golden aura coalescing around him. I can fly too, so don't hold back. Sanguinius smiled and set aside a power sword, picking up an iron training blade. He stood in the center, white wings half spread, golden hair drifting in windless air. Handsome and composed, his eagle eyes glittered with anticipation. He hadn't found a worthy opponent in a long time. Ready, Sanguinius? Axis floated with arms crossed, confidence in his tone. Always, Sanguinius said, and launched. The Primarch's speed flickered past the limits of human sight. The training sword carved the air with a screaming whistle, after images blurred where his figure had been. The tip drove straight for Axis's throat. At the last instant, Axis vanished. He had reappeared behind the Archangel. Sanguinius felt the shift, spun and swung, but his blade met only air. He recovered quickly, wings beating, and forced distance with a powerful thrust that sent him skidding dozens of meters back. Humph! Sanguinius roared and surged again. This time his speed doubled. His sword made 1,000 afterimages, a web of steel closing on Axis. His technique was exceptional, perhaps stronger than Lionel Johnson's, rivaling Fulgrim, but Axis was unimpressed. With the same calm he had used against the Lion King, Axis extended a finger, wrapped it in a filament of golden chi, and formed a slender sword of light. He met Sanguinius blade to blade. Is this your chi? Sanguinius said, eyes narrowing. You shape it so precisely, into a sword. Switch to your power sword then, Axis replied. That training blade will splinter in 2 hits. Sanguinius dropped the iron practice sword and drew his power blade. The change sharpened his attacks. The gentleness on his face gave way to a warlike hunger. Sparks rained as metal and chi clashed. Their motions blurred into a storm of light and sound. Sanguinius aimed at throat, heart, brow. Each furious stroke evaded or was met by Axis's single-finger sword. Your form is beautiful, Axis said in a lull between strikes, but too ornamental. Then teach me, Sanguinius said, eyes alight. He lunged. Axis smiled and shifted. The small golden sword in his hand swelled to 3 times its size, then erupted into a massive crescent of condensed chi. He flicked his wrist. The sweeping blade cleaved the arena atmosphere. Sanguinius crossed his power sword to block and was hurled backward 100 meters, the crescent plowing 2 deep furrows into the alloy floor. Axis appeared above him and brought the great sword down. Sanguinius slammed his blade up to meet it. Metal rang against golden chi, and the edge of his power sword chipped where Axis's strike hit. Sanguinius's pupils narrowed in disbelief. He beat the air with his wings and retreated, his power weapon chipped by a single blow. "Now for something more fun," Axis said. He dissipated the giant sword, raised his palm, and condensed a compact golden halo of chi, a disk of energy. He had modeled it on the ki blasts he had studied in other worlds. The technique was honed and viciously sharp. Axis threw it like a guided hailstone. Sanguinius' face tightened. He flapped his wings, trying to put distance between himself and the incoming disc, but Axis' ki blast hunted its mark like a homing missile. Years of chi practice made Axis's control precise. The projectile pursued without deviation. And as it closed, Axis could split a single disc into dozens with a flick of focused chi. Chapter 196, Psionics versus Chi Energy, Magical Pony Spells. Sanguinius beat his wings and retreated, but the golden ki blast followed like a living shadow, whining through the air. The Archangel's pupils narrowed. The razor-sharp disc's cutting power far exceeded anything he had imagined. He had the sudden, chilling certainty that a direct hit could wreck even a Primarch's body. A tracking attack? Interesting. A battle-ready smile curved Sanguinius's lips. He kicked his wings in a powerful burst and surged away, leaving a white afterimage. Axis hovered, arms folded, a playful smile on his face. With a casual lift of his right hand, the ki blast that had been pursuing in a straight line split. One became three. What? Sanguinius's heart leapt. 3 golden discs converged from different angles, cutting off every escape route. Fast, homing, and able to split. What kind of attack was this? Even with his speed, he couldn't dodge them all. Forced to stand his ground, he roared and swung his power sword horizontally to meet one of the discs. What happened next froze him. The golden disc cut through his power sword as if the blade were ordinary iron. No resistance, no sparks, just a clean, effortless severing. Half his sword clattered to the ground. Sanguinius stared, disbelief written across his face. The other 2 discs were already closing in. He could feel the cutting intent in those discs. Even with his power armor, a strike to neck or waist would slice him apart. For the first time in his life, Sanguinius felt death close enough to touch. Time stretched. He watched the golden arcs aim themselves at his throat and abdomen. Was this the end? Then Axis raised a hand, and the discs winked out. "You lost," he said, descending and patting Sanguinius's shoulder. Sanguinius was drenched in sweat. Even his great wings trembled. "For a moment there, I thought I was dead. What was that attack called?" he asked, breathless. The disc had felt like an assassination weapon, tracking, splitting, lethal. "This is called ki blast," Axis said with a smile. "A technique I developed. Its edge is beyond what you'd expect. It can home and split." Axis went on, casually explaining the move in a way that made Sanguinius feel absurdly out of his depth. In the Dragon Ball world, Ki Blast is one of the most versatile attacks, alongside things like Solar Flare, instant transmission, and fusion. It's deceptively simple to operate. Once you understand the principle, a fighter of Axis's caliber can wield it with terrifying effect. Axis even mentioned the old joke that if Krillin had used Solar Flare and then a Ki Blast against Frieza, Goku might never have needed to intervene. Only beings of extraordinary resilience, like Perfect Cell at his peak, could withstand a Ki Blast with bare flesh. "Your move could instantly kill a Gene Seed Primarch," Sanguinius said. "No, Primarchs can resist it, just not with flesh alone." Axis smiled. "Magnus, for example, could handle it. He could teleport it away with psychic power, raise a psychic shield, or use spells I don't understand. The point is, you don't have to take it with your body." Sanguinius thought for a beat and nodded. Psychic power, he had that. He'd used it just now. It hadn't felt alien. If he could establish a psychic field around himself, it might slow or destabilize a Ki Blast, giving him time to dodge or even directly disrupt the attack. "Exactly. Psychic power," Axis confirmed, then lazily condensed a small golden disc on his fingertip and flipped it like a coin. "It's sharp, but not invincible. Interfere with its energy structure before it hits, or spatially transfer it." He flicked his finger, and the disc zipped toward an alloy target at the edge of the training ground. Sanguinius reflexively poured his psychic energy into the air. A brilliant ripple burst from his hand. The disc stuttered mid-flight, as if trapped in amber, and disintegrated into golden dust. Sanguinius breathed out, flexing his fingers. using psychic resonance to disrupt the energy balance. He glanced down at his sword, broken in two, and smiled wryly. Real combat doesn't give you enough reaction time, though. Axis laughed and stamped on the fallen blade. That's why we train. Psychic power is your gift. Use it. You're resisting your nature for no reason. It's part of you. You won't be corrupted by it unless you accept it. Sanguinius agreed. He had used psychic power moments ago, and it wasn't as alien as he'd feared. With practice, he could surround himself with a psychic field that would slow or destabilize Axis's blasts. I'm looking forward to your match with Magnus in 3 days, the clash of chi and psychic power, Sanguinius said. He'd taken a hard lesson today. Axis hadn't even gone all out. Sanguinius had heard Axis could use a golden transformation that multiplied his power 5-fold, yet even without full force, some golden energy had been present. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Magnus spent them devouring offensive and defensive psychic spells, preparing. The planet where Axis had planted the spirit tree fruit had become a dead, perfect arena. Only Axis, Magnus, and Sanguinius were present. Only Sanguinius, as a Primarch, was allowed to watch. I've waited for this, Magnus said. He gripped his psychic staff, confidence blazing. My body might be weaker, but the strange ways of psychic magic will surpass your expectations. Bring it on, Axis replied. Magnus began to chant. He couldn't win by raw force. He intended to win by layering psychic effects. He rattled off a litany of curses and debuffs. Weakness, slow, confusion curse, soul tremor, doom, blurred vision, aging curse, supergravity, shadow of fear, and launched them like a storm. Axis felt the psychic pressure like a tide trying to reshape him. Chi shot through his body as he began to dispel and resist, but some effects seeped through. The spells Magnus wielded, even the basic ones, pressed on Axis in a way he hadn't expected. His limbs felt leaden, his thoughts thick, hallucinations flickered at the edges of his mind. Frieza, the Dark King, Beerus. Axis gathered the spark of his Super Saiyan will in his head and punched through the visions. Even as the illusions broke, other effects lingered. Raising his arm required 10 times the usual effort. Chi flow slowed. Axis grinned inwardly. This was excellent training, better than a gravity chamber. Magnus, swaggering, lifted his staff and said, "This is only the beginning." The earth ruptured. Psychic chains erupted and wrapped around Axis, and Magnus finished the casting with a whispered, "Time slow." He had hesitated to go further. He could have banished Axis into the warp with a stronger spatiotemporal spell, but that would have been lethal. Axis could feel his state being constricted, warp energies pressing in, but his chi still pushed back. A bright golden light flared across his body. His hair lifted and burned gold. For the first time against a Gene Seed Primarch, Axis unlocked his Super Saiyan transformation. The moment the power blossomed, the psychic bonds unraveled. The negative effects crumbled like dust. Axis stretched, feeling energy crackle through him. Continue, Magnus. Chapter 197, Psycho Titan vs Super Saiyan 2. Magnus's eyes narrowed. The psychic staff in his hand trembled violently. He had never seen such a pure eruption of energy. The golden chi not only dispelled all the curse magics he had meticulously prepared, it even temporarily purified the surrounding warp energy. Axis's chi energy was, as he'd suspected, a natural counter to psychic power. If any other Gene Seed Primarch had absorbed so many malignant spells from him, they would have been bound unless they unleashed their full psychic might. Is this your true power? Magnus's voice quavered, then brightened with an exhilarated edge. Continue. Use everything, Magnus. Show me your glory. Show me greater wonders. Axis, already in Super Saiyan form, answered with a smile. This was only Super Saiyan 1. He was still holding back his full strength. When Axis transformed into Super Saiyan 1, he automatically entered a full power state that minimized consumption and maximized output. It was the smallest multiplier, but also the most stable and least draining of the transformations. Ha! Wonderful, Axis. As you wish. I will pour everything into this, Magnus declared. He unleashed psychic magic with a violent flourish. The Lord of the Red drove his staff into the ground and a vast psychic array bloomed. Ancient runes flashed across the sky. The planet's heavens took on an eerie purple tint. 20 Magnuses appeared, each gripping a staff, surrounding Axis. Axis probed with chi energy. All 20 appeared living and made of flesh, true clones, but one radiated stronger chi, a deeper life aura, and a keener soul signature, the real Magnus. The trick was potent against most, but it would not fool someone who could perceive chi. The clones began chanting, unleashing torrents of lightning, flame, ice, an onslaught of psychic attacks. They raced at Axis, but his chi energy repelled them. His body bloomed with dazzling gold light. Even Sanguinius, watching from the sidelines, narrowed his eyes at the display. Axis stood unmoving, taking every blow, and remained unscathed. "Do not underestimate me, Axis. I will show you this move," Magnus snarled, anger sharpening his voice. He chanted obscure ancient words. His skin cracked and peeled away like burning bark, revealing a living torrent of psychic power beneath. Magnus's form swelled into a titanic figure of pure psychic energy, eyes like burning stars, staff become a continent-cleaving sword. He rose thousands of meters high, a red colossus towering over the planet. "Warp Avatar." Magnus's voice reverberated like 1,000 voices. "Now we shall truly contest." He poured every ounce of psychic might into the warp giant, a technique born from Eldar genius. The original creator had lacked the power or physical vessel to sustain it, but Magnus did not. This warp giant could rend planets, unmake stars. Axis looked up, and the smile on his face deepened. Now this was a proper challenge. Golden Ki surged. Axis's energy crackled like lightning around him. The two titans collided. The psychic greatsword met the radiant golden fist. The impact sent a shockwave that stripped ground away for thousands of miles. Sanguinius had to spread his wings fully just to avoid being swept away. Giant Magnus versus Axis in Super Saiyan 1 at full power. "This is incredible," Sanguinius breathed. He had never seen Magnus manifest such a colossal psychic avatar, nor expected Axis to physically withstand it. The warp colossus bellowed, swinging its sword down in a reality-warping storm of psychic force. Before the blade could touch him, the space for tens of thousands of miles had already fractured, dark warp rifts spiderwebbed outward. Axis's grin widened. He compressed his golden chi into a brilliant point at his fist. "Ha!" he punched. Pure power crashed into the psychic blade. The explosion erupted in a blinding ring. Continental plates collapsed and magma geysers flung into the air. The ground cracked beneath Sanguinius like thin eggshell. These two, were they really this strong? "It's not over." Magnus's voice came from everywhere as the giant's other hand slammed down. A swirling warp vortex opened in its palm, tugging and warping light itself. The psychic distortion bent space and time. Axis was fast, but such distortions made fleeing impossible. Even if he could have escaped, Axis, true to type, did not try. Saiyans met fights head-on. "Ha ha! You are truly a genius, Magnus. This is the battle I wanted," Axis said. His figure blurred, and he was behind the giant's head in an instant. Hands clasped, blue-white energy coalesced. "Come!" "Ha!" A blinding beam shot through the warp giant's head. The psychic construct tore apart, but Magnus laughed like a lunatic. The shattered warp energy writhed back together and reformed in a heartbeat. "In my warp giant form, I am immortal. My power is infinite," Magnus boasted. He unleashed another devastating psychic storm. The giant's palms came together, and a pitch-black singularity formed, a point where even time seemed to stall. Magnus thought of Axis and felt no restraint. The golden chi Axis had given him, the two spirit tree fruits, the forbidden knowledge from the Black Library. It had all pushed him here. He believed that to repay Axis, he should give everything. Axis's pupils narrowed. This form of Magnus could easily obliterate the planet. If Magnus would go that far, Axis would go a bit further too. "Humph." Axis let go of any restraint. His chi erupted fully. Golden lightning writhed like serpents through his aura. His hair stiffened straighter than before. Super Saiyan 2. Apart from his battle with the Emperor, this was the first time Axis had shown this form. "Magnus, this is my reply. In that former state, my combat power was 50 times normal. In this state, Super Saiyan 2, my combat power is 100 times normal." Axis detonated with terrifying golden chi and accelerated. He tore free from the warp storm and struck the giant with a barrage of fists. Countless golden afterimages rained down, each blow enough to shatter mountains and obliterate cities. The psychic form kept reconstituting, but the repairs could not keep pace with the onslaught. "You can self-repair, can't you? Then I'll beat you until you can't." A trickle of blood threaded down Magnus's lips. He was seated at the center of the giant's head, watching Axis's furious assault with disbelief. How could one being be so terrifying? This was his ultimate trump card, a perfect blend of offense and armor, a power to suppress the enemy. Magnus roared. The giant detonated itself in a cataclysmic psychic self-destruction. A mushroom cloud of pure warp energy exploded outward. The planet imploded under the incomparable force. Axis was hurled an unknown distance by the blast. He tumbled through space and then righted himself, holding steady. As the dust of the annihilated world began to clear, Magnus reverted to his true form and hovered in the void, chest heaving, a smear of blood at one corner of his mouth. Axis floated, golden chi still flickering around him, lightning coiling through the air. Magnus, shall we continue? Axis asked with a faint smile. Magnus looked up, his eyes alight with both unwillingness and exhilaration. He shook his head and gave a bitter smile. I yield, for now, but next time I will prepare even more powerful magics. Truly immense power, Axis. I will not stop here. When I complete my plan, when I finish the demigod ascension ritual, I will challenge you again. I look forward to it, Axis said. Sanguinius drifted down slowly, staring at where the planet had been, now nothing but shattered debris. He murmured, scarcely audible, "You two destroyed a planet." Sanguinius stared at the ruined world drifting before them and shook his head. It had been a terrifying fight. Magnus had given everything he had, but Axis had held back. If Axis had attacked at full tilt from the start, with that uncanny speed and explosive power, Magnus would never have had time to cast a single spell. That golden transformation was truly fearsome, strength multiplied 50 to 100 times. Such amplification made him dangerous. And Magnus's sorcery required long wind-ups. If an opponent seized the opening, victory slipped away. Still, against other Gene Seed Primarchs, Magnus's power was more than enough. Even without psychic assault, the Spirit Tree fruit had greatly enhanced his body. He could now beat any Gene Seed Primarch with ease. Sanguinius found himself intrigued by the ascension ritual Magnus had mentioned. Destroying a planet isn't extraordinary, Magnus said. They spoke by psychic link even in vacuum. If a Gene Seed Primarch unleashes their full psychic might, planet busting becomes possible. In that state, a self-destruct strike can wipe a world clean. Indeed, Axis replied, the Emperor's psychic power is on another level. He can compress a star. He smiled. Isn't the energy your father made by compressing a star what you used? Magnus laughed softly. Father's strength is beyond imagining. His psychic power is the most potent in the real universe. I am only infinitely close. Once I finish the ascension ritual, master subgodly power, and forge a suitable body, I won't be far behind. Compressing a star or mastering a black hole will not be out of reach. Axis merely smiled at the thought. He had seen the Emperor fight and been humbled. Even stacked legendary Super Saiyan forms had been routed. He suspected his father was a god of the warp, but never guessed the Emperor was the Dark King himself. Nothing short of a true warp subgod compared in front of the Emperor. Magnus's psychic power is terrifying, Sanguinius said. Axis, your chi is devastating too. If we're talking raw destructive force, your chi might even outstrip his sorcery. The two of them were formidable. Sanguinius made a mental note to cultivate more psychic ability, otherwise he would fall behind. He wondered if other brothers would accept such powers. Mortarion and Rogel Dorn were famously averse to the warp. Ha ha ha, Sanguinius, see what true power looks like, Magnus said, eager to show him what psychic might could do. Distort time and space, flout physics, annihilate worlds. I'll train my psychic power when I return, Sanguinius replied, but it's not something to parade. Use it wisely. You'll see powers no one imagines, Magnus answered. They prepared to part. Magnus, wipe the crew's memories before we leave. We can't let details of this battle spread, Axis said. All objectives were complete, and the trip had yielded unexpected gains. They nodded and moved to depart, but a strange sensation rippled through the void. The warp tier Magnus had opened earlier, which should have been collapsing now, was widening instead. It was as if an invisible, enormous hand was prying the rift open. Something's wrong, Magnus. Seal that rift, Axis warned. Through his divine soul perception and immense psychic power, Axis could sense an unseen force clawing at the other side. Purple, malformed things were already spilling through, low-level demons of raw warp energy, neither wholly male nor female, with an obscene, seductive, repulsive air. Axis knew at a glance they were servants of a perverted hermaphroditic god. Magnus raised his psychic staff and began to close the tier. The recent clash had left behind consequences. Sanguinius did not stand idle. A warm, golden radiance flowed from him, different from Axis's flashing light. Their powers combined as the two gene seed Primarchs drove to seal the rift, unleashing psychic storms that incinerated the lesser Slaanesh thralls. If the tier weren't closed quickly, an endless tide of chaos would pour through. In the vacuum of space, they had a measure of safety. On a planet, it would be a catastrophe. "You've arrived early, thieves," a voice called from the warp, equal parts honey and steel. A towering figure stepped through, over 5 meters tall, grotesque in its symmetry. Half female, half male, 6 arms each clutching a different weapon, a hammer, a sword, a scimitar. Its face curled into a savage grin. "My master commands your slaughter for stealing the great god's feast." "Shalaxi Hellbane?" Axis said, an amused curl on his lips. "A mere Slaanesh great daemon, such arrogance. You know my name? How convenient." Shalaxi Hellbane flexed its many limbs. "You two can stand down and watch my show." Axis drifted forward and put himself between the daemon and the Primarchs. For him, it was mere diversionary entertainment. Sanguinius and Magnus exchanged glances. A great daemon confronting Axis was ill luck, but it bought them a chance to finish the seal. They poured more power into the rift, killing the swarms of lesser demons as they streamed out. Shalaxi's grin broadened. "Kneel and beg, and perhaps I'll grant you a swift death." Axis tilted his head. "You're reckless. I'll show you real power." He blinked out of sight, and then, with a dull impact, Shalaxi's abdomen was crushed inward. The demon arched like a broken crustacean. Weapons flew from its hands and drifted in the void. Axis had grabbed its horn and hauled it up as if lifting trash. Even Slaanesh's great daemon could be made to kneel. "Did your master not warn you against picking fights with those stronger?" Axis said. Shalaxi Hellbane screamed, warp energy surging as its flesh knit and reformed. It spun and lashed with all 6 arms, but caught nothing. Axis moved too fast. With a single motion, his palm closed around the daemon's face. Golden chi blazed and his hand crushed and reshaped the skull. Purple ichor sprayed into the black, the daemon's seductive features cracking and twisting. Axis flung it aside as if discarding refuse. "Is this all Slaanesh sends? Where's your arrogance now?" The daemon tumbled in the vacuum, maddened. From the widening rift, countless Slaanesh daemons poured out in a screaming torrent, a living tide bearing down on Axis. He did not bother to assume a fighting stance. "What a tedious scrap," Axis said. A surge of golden chi flashed from him. Every charging daemon vaporized the instant it met the light, reduced to dust without a sound. Axis casually gathered a vast ball of energy at his fingertips and hurled it toward the rift. Shalaxi watched, horrified, as its minions were erased and understood at last the nature of the thing it had provoked. It turned back toward the warp, seeking to flee. "Running already? I'm not finished," Axis said, grabbing one of Shalaxi's arms and tugging. With a brutal rip, the limb was torn away, collapsing into a writhing knot of dissipating warp energy. "Ah!" The Keeper of Secrets screamed, a high, ear-splitting wail. Shalaxi Hellbane staggered, bewildered. Why had his god sent him to face this thing? This creature in front of him was simply beyond his ability. Even if every Keeper of Secrets had joined him, they might not have won. Had his master cast him aside as expendable? But that couldn't be right. He had been the most powerful of Slaanesh's great demons, hunter of Khorne's champions and daemon princes alike. "Don't be hasty. You still have 5 hands left," Axis said lightly, then set about disassembling the demon like a toy. Rip, one arm torn free. Rip, another. Rip. One by one, all 6 of Shalaxi Hellbane's arms were torn off. Axis held the flailing demon like a rag, utterly powerless to resist. "You're disgusting," he said, cold. "A creature with no shame. Now send a message to your master. Next time, send someone who can actually fight. Don't waste my time with useless trash." Axis formed a small sphere of energy in his hand and pressed it gently against the daemon's chest. Shalaxi's whole body shone with a golden light. Its skin began to fracture like glass. "Goodbye," Axis said. Boom! The light devoured the Keeper of Secrets. In agonized shrieks, it was torn from the universe and sent screaming into the warp. None of the 3 could permanently destroy a great daemon here. The best they could do was banish it back into the immaterium. Axis clapped his hands together and faced Magnus and Sanguinius. That's done. Magnus watched in silence, thoughts unreadable. This man was more terrifying than a daemon. Sanguinius kept his face calm, but inwardly wondered if Axis harbored a dangerous streak of cruelty. The torn rift in the warp was sealed by the two gene seed Primarchs, and the brief encounter was already over. Why would Slaanesh send such a powerful, and yet somehow inadequate champion? Shalaxi Hellbane might be the most capable of Slaanesh's keepers of secrets, but he'd been nothing before Axis. The Chaos Gods were formidable, with many tricks, but outside the warp, their tools had limits. Their mightiest servants were still daemons, or mortals elevated into demon princes. "All right, time for us to go," Axis said. Axis, it is time for parting as well. "Until we meet again," Sanguinius said, and Magnus nodded. They exchanged brief farewells and slipped back to their starships. Magnus used his psychic arts to alter the memories of everyone aboard. Each soul would remember that Exterminatus had been carried out here, and that they had returned safely. Sanguinius climbed back aboard his Gloriana-class battleship with a new gene seed son in tow. Sanguino, a warrior with white wings like his father's, who stunned the Blood Angels with his resemblance to Sanguinius himself, save for slightly pointed ears that made a few wonder, half-jokingly, about a touch of Eldar blood. "Welcome, new brother," the Blood Angels roared. Sanguinius raised his voice over the jubilation. "Quiet, my gene seed sons, you will undergo gene seed replacement. Because I used a spirit tree fruit, the new seed I obtained is stronger and purer. You must accept it. This will greatly reduce the risk of the bloodlust curse that haunts our legion." "Great Gene Father, our thanks!" the legion shouted, and a tide of devotion swept through the ship. The old gene seed was removed and the new inserted. Sanguino lent his chi energy to purify the entire stock of gene seed, transforming them into stable, perfect copies. Magnus, for his part, retreated into the Dark Library's data and buried himself in the secrets he had brought back, perfecting the Book of Magnus and devising yet more potent psychic spells to show to Axis next time. Axis, meanwhile, had returned to his ship, the Morning Star. The ship's avatar flashed across a holoscreen, bowing. "Welcome back, Father. Any problems while I was gone? That warp tear, did it affect the ship?" Axis asked. "Father, I detected nothing major. There is something I should mention," Morningstar began, and Axis, sensing there was more, cut in. "Call Cassandra. We won't be using the warp to return. We'll take the webway." "Understood, Father." Cassandra was found in a hidden chamber and guided into the command suite. When she appeared, she had shed her Harlequin costume for a formal Eldar robe, blue and white, that clung to her figure, revealing long, graceful legs. Her face, usually hidden behind a mask, was made up and exposed, and a faint purple aura clung to her like perfume. Eldar beauty is a quiet, dangerous thing. Cassandra was striking even by their standards. "Why the change of clothes? Weren't you a Harlequin?" Axis asked, already suspicious. Something about the careful grooming and the faint purple shimmer in her eyes set his nerves on edge. "Lord Axis," Cassandra said, kneeling on one knee, voice silk sweet, "I have severed my tie to Slaanesh. I want to be myself again, my true self. Do you like it?" Axis didn't humor the display. "Enough of that. Tell your companions to prepare. We leave by the webway from Macheria." Cassandra smiled, and the smile seemed to sharpen. She rose and stepped closer, the scent of her like a honeyed trap. "Of course, Lord Axis," she purred, voice laced with a sweetness that did not belong to her. "But first, don't you want to relax a little? I'd like to properly thank you. The ancient Eldar know pleasures you humans could never imagine. We've held our passions for ages. Now mine are overflowing." Axis narrowed his eyes. "Is that supposed to flatter me?" he said coldly. The neck of her robe slipped as she leaned in, a deliberately inviting gesture. But Axis, a scion, felt no stir of mortal lust. He felt a foreign pressure, a probing influence. He had no sympathy for trickery. Her fingers traced her collarbone. "Hang me up, if you like. Thorned leather, nails, whatever you desire." Axis snorted. A golden light flared around him, hair erupting into the legendary glow of a Super Saiyan. The transformation amplified not only his physical might, but his psychic potency. He poured that holy, brutal psychic power into Cassandra's body, a purifying lance meant to drive out an alien consciousness. "Get out!" he roared. The thing occupying her laughed, a voice layered over Cassandra's. You cannot force me from this vessel. Kill me if you can, but you will not succeed. Axis did not waste time arguing. He punched, his fist driving through the Eldar's chest. Blood sprayed as his blow drove clean through, yet it was not merely flesh he struck. From the wound, a shimmering purple mist bled out, a slender wisp of thought and sensation, a personal incarnation of Slaanesh, a conscious fragment leeching off Cassandra. You lie, Slaanesh hissed, incredulous. Mortals fall before me. Your transformation ought to have captured you. You should have succumbed. Axis watched that mist curl, then channeled a surge of chi energy and divine psychic force. You're the least of the four to tempt me, he said flatly. I do not hunger the way other mortals do. The wisp hovered for a feeble moment, then Axis concentrated and annihilated it. The remnant of Slaanesh's presence disintegrated into nothing. Cassandra's purple pupils faded. She coughed and garbled as the last of the possession left her. Morningstar's avatar exhaled in relief. Father, you finally rid her of it. I was afraid to stir while it was aboard, if it had noticed me. Axis knelt beside Cassandra, placed his palm over the wound, and poured healing life energy into her. The bleeding slowed, flesh knitting. He had Morningstar bring a life potion distilled from spirit tree fruit and poured it down Cassandra's throat. Get out of me, she shrieked, scrambling up, clutching at her chest. You damned monster! Get out! Axis raised a hand in a calming gesture. It's gone, he said quietly. If not for my chi, a sacred soul, and Morningstar's warning, I might have fallen for it too. But not now. Chapter 200. Why are you still alive? When Axis made his move, he was calm and measured, coldly efficient even as his hand ripped out the intruder's heart. Still, within a minute, the Harlequin did not die. Harlequins are absurdly resilient, and Eldar in general have prodigious vitality. Under almost any other circumstances, the female Eldar would have been dead long ago. Axis knew that with the right treatment, his chi infused with life essence and a restorative draught made from spirit tree fruit, she could be brought back. That knowledge is what made him decide to save her, not sentiment, but calculation. Cassandra crouched on the floor, trembling. Your adult Axis? I was in the training room, cultivating that daemon. Then it was there. It forced my will. My body wouldn't obey me. Did I do anything? Did I hurt you? Her voice was barely steady. Axis looked uninjured. Cassandra glanced down at her chest. There was a jagged, repaired wound where a hole had been. She felt weak and ashamed. Don't worry. You didn't hurt me, Axis said. Even with a spirit tree fruit inside you, you wouldn't be my match. The gap between us is enormous. I'm not a god now, but my true combat strength far exceeds a minor divine. You were not a threat. Cassandra tried to stand and bowed, shame written on her face. I'm so sorry, adult Axis. I was taken over, controlled by that monster's magic. I lost myself. Axis sighed. It's not a small matter. I got to see the enemy's true face. But I am disappointed in you. Taken so easily. Weren't you supposed to have separated yourself from Slaanesh? Her knuckles went white on the floor. If you wish to dismiss me, I understand. She sank to her knees, humiliated. By the look of her attires and what he'd seen, she had likely done things under Slaanesh's influence that would have embarrassed any Harlequin. Axis fixed her with a hard look. There's something stranger. Why are you still alive? Cassandra blinked. You drove out the Slaanesh Great Demon. Why would there be a problem with me surviving? If an ordinary Slaanesh Great Daemon had used you, survival might be plausible, Axis said. But this wasn't a Great Daemon. It was Slaanesh itself. Its consciousness. In the Black Library, and in other accounts, beings of that level can take over even a gene seed Primarch's body. Fulgrim was controlled by a keeper of secrets recorded in the Thornblade. Primarchs have been occupied. If a Great Daemon can possess a Primarch, then an ordinary Eldar should be utterly consumed. You should have been dead. The fact you weren't, it's a miracle. That was the crux. Axis had assumed she was effectively lost once Slaanesh took control. Ripping out the heart made sense in his eyes. He had not expected that, after expelling the entity, she would still have a coherent soul and a pulse. There was something left to save. This could be Slaanesh's plan, Cassandra whispered, panic flaring. Maybe my survival is a trick. He wouldn't let me live unless there's more to it. You should imprison me. I'm dangerous. Axis cut her off. Don't speak. I'll examine your soul. Placing his palm on her forehead, Axis fully unleashed his psychic senses. He manifested his soul form in Halo, drawing on his divine-tinged psychic power. The force swept through her like a flood, examining every shard and echo of her spirit. He scanned her again and again, probing for warp taint, foreign anchors, any trace of possession. Nothing. Her soul was whole, no trace of warp corruption, no residual demon spirit, no tether to Slaanesh. The chi in her body registered clean. He could feel it with absolute clarity. Relief and new worry warred across Cassandra's face. "Contact my companions," she pleaded. "Have someone from the troop come. Confine me. Put me in a stasis cell in the Black Library. I'm not safe." Axis shook his head. "No, I don't want to send you away. If Slaanesh is trying tricks, splitting you off to someone else could spread the danger. You're one of the most exposed members of the clown troupe, the one who portrays Slaanesh. If I replace you, I'd just put another in harm's way. I'll take responsibility." Cassandra's eyes widened. "It's too dangerous." "My key suppresses warp power and can strengthen a soul," Axis said. "I'll fortify you daily. I'll put a black stone matrix and a Geller field in your room and have the Morning Star monitor you. I'll have special gene seed offspring trained to handle certain chi tasks so I can focus where I'm needed." She bowed deeply. "Thank you, Adult Axis. I won't fail you. I will resist them." "We'll monitor you with no blind spots," Axis said. "We'll use the webway back to New Syria. Get your troop together and lead us to the webway entrance." Cassandra nodded and hurried to summon her comrades. A few hours later, a handful of Harlequins arrived, piloting their craft and guiding Axis's Dawn Star across the webway. They reached the outskirts of New Syria in 3 days. Before he left, Axis told the Harlequins what had happened and asked that the Laughing God be informed. A party of clown troupe members rushed to the Laughing God's Black Library and relayed every detail. Slaanesh had manifested, briefly taking Cassandra with its own consciousness. Axis had expelled it, and Cassandra had somehow survived without warp contamination. The Laughing God listened, smile unreadable. "Cassandra is a Harlequin," he said finally. "They are intertwined with Slaanesh in ways most cannot understand. Even severed, they remain vulnerable. Slaanesh can always take them back if it chooses. If it wanted to possess her, it could. That much is easy." "But why didn't Slaanesh devour her soul?" one of the troop asked. "How did she survive being possessed?" "Ha ha ha." The Laughing God chuckled, amusement and something like approval in his voice. "Our perverted lover in the warp also plays games. Axis's chi is not trivial. His soul carries a sanctity that repels the warp. He's a bane to Slaanesh's designs. Perhaps Slaanesh toyed with the idea and then found a better plaything, or perhaps it wanted her for some other reason. Either way, Axis acted swiftly. That's what matters." Outside the library, Axis and his retinue prepared to settle Cassandra into a guarded chamber and begin the slow work of bolstering her spirit. Whatever motives Slaanesh had, Axis would meet them head-on, here where he could watch and counter every move.